Ladies and gentlemen, entering now is my good friend. Haven't seen him in forever, ever. Yo!
Blood Wizard. Blood Wizard. Blood Wizard. Blood Wizard! Shop.bloodwizard.com.
Tickety-tack.
Hey, it's Corey at Blue Plate, 3218 Mission Street. Come see us. Meatloaf, fried chicken, deviled eggs, Dollar Olympia beers. We're here every day of the week. We got a garden and we got smiles on our faces. Come let us make you happy.
Hello, this is Ryan Johnson, and you're listening to Talkin Schmit.
Hey.
Talkin Schmit.
I'm already not watching.
It's cool, like tonight is the night.
Damn, this is like the coolest thing I'm ever gonna do.
I wouldn't say it was fun.
What do you mean? Well, Christian Fletcher's younger brother.
Fuck the Dodgers.
Big Dog's in. What do you think, Colin?
John, Schmitty.
Talkin Schmit.
Alpha Macaroni.
Most of these guys, their opinion don't matter.
Talkin Schmit, right?
And skateboarding.
I remember that.
Talkin Schmit. What are yuns doing?
Holy shit.
Skateboarding homies.
No, Schmitty, you can't jump in.
What is happening?
I'm here for Greg Cliff. Yay!
Gregory.
Yes, we are. Wi-Fi check 1, Wi-Fi check 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we got a fucking banger for you today. We got one of Tim McKenney's favorites. We used to spend lots of time driving down to Visalia, Hanford, Clovis, Orange Cove, Fresno. I got to know the Fresno Valley because of this guy, really, him and Jesse Paez mainly. Anyway, this is the all-terrain vehicle, the ATV, the pool shredder, the handrail chomper, New Deal, Consolidated, Scarecrow, you name it, he's been there. This is Ryan Johnson.
Oh my gosh, Greg Schmitty, man. We've had some good times. It's been a long time, and it hasn't been enough time, right?
It's been over 20 years, right?
Right, and time just flies by, doesn't it? Those golden years just sneak up on us.
It's insane. How are you? You all right?
I'm great, yeah.
Oh, dude, it's good to see you and just know you're still alive. It's been like, it sucks that it takes something like Instagram to like reconnect us, but I think that's one of the powers that thing has. So I saw you on there and I was like, yes, and we reconnected.
Well, you had kind words then. You said, I was looking for you. So I really piqued my interest. Like, what made you think of me or look for me, and tell me what made you just search me out in your own thoughts? Because I only wanted to be in the hearts and minds, right?
Well, dude, I think anybody that spent like time in my life, there was dear moments and I'll never forget those, right? So like me and McKenney have really been bonding a lot lately, and he's always calling me or texting me in the morning with just like brain thoughts, right? Like, what about RJ? And then we start talking about times we had with you and just all this stuff. And then I'm like, dude, I don't even know where that guy is. He could be in Idaho for all I know, you know?
There's a quality in anonymity or the magic of disappearing, but then reappearing. I mean, look at Tom Penny's skating lately. It doesn't matter what he's doing, but he does it so stylishly and rad still. And then the whole idea of like, we all are impressed by each other from afar, how we all appreciate skateboarding. But then those being in the hearts and minds of the memories and all those are what really matter. It's almost like going from my own experience. I went from getting to do what I loved right away out of high school and then travel the world and coming back to Fresno. I mean, no wonder I was depressed a little. Sorry, but it's still got the greatest history here too. And I have to correct. Some people don't always recognize that Fresno had an epic history of skateboarding, and like from Alan Peterson to even Ron Allen lived out here. Solomon Agaw moved out here, but then we had the art ramp. Chuck Gillette was out here, and the ramp that I saw Jesse Paez and Richard Paez first skate. So those are the first pros I really skated with when I was a kid. But as a skateboarder, my highest archetype of skateboarding was Mark Gonzalez. So then that high strangeness is there, and but then two top, I could never choose one. It's like John Cardiel, and everything out, the rest of the power, it's like John Cardiel. And then there's surf style in there too, but the whole thing is like, because it's a flow in life, you know, it's just important to power versus force, in life. So
right.
The waters kind of has a lot more imagery and anyway, I like what's the word, metaphor.
Well, let's figure this whole ride out. You started in Clovis. Is that where you kind of were raised?
Oh yeah, I did want to tell my history, but let me touch on Tim McKenney and how rad it was to stay in San Francisco with Tim McKenney and then get to cruise around with Pancho Molder and what he was, and like his comedy is sick if you've seen it. But yeah, and Tim was awesome. Just like he helped us out, and people were like doing construction at 7 a.m. at his building when we were staying there. Like hammers started, and we were waking up to go skate together. And Tim was obviously just so impressive. And everyone's words kind of stick with me because like the words that carry lessons. So Tim's words are some words that have stayed with me, but I like learning lessons from words. And in the end, when you can carry a lesson with no weight and remember it with a philosophy, that's really important to me, to like other words and lessons and then making my own over time. And after skateboarding was getting like harder, your shelf life, you could call it, but I don't fit on a shelf. So, but anyway, the whole idea is, we jump differently sometimes, or we jump how we can and we keep going. And that's trying to be a rad skeleton, because I banged myself up, but I'm just like, still have my angles of what I want to achieve in skateboarding when I see like where I was getting with something. Cause it's really, there's a non-competitive to others. It's mostly competitive to yourself when you really think like a child and just skate and like. So anyway, but I would say my third archetype too, to add into the archetypes, I would say Phil Shaw would have to be the third archetype. And like this, the flow he had, and he was all-terrain. And by the way, all-terrain vehicle, the first person who said that was Alex Chalmers. Told me that, and I never heard it before if he hadn't said it first, but I know that he said it first as far as I know. Because it made a mark on me in '98 when we went to Marseille, and that was a really great contest. It was one of the most funnest contests because Marseille on the beach, and then it was like John Cardiel, Wade Spire. Like Wade Spire was doing hurricane grinds across the spine so far and fast, and Alex Chalmers flew to the middle spine from the outer, and then John Cardiel's broken board 360. And just seeing it and seeing the board, how flimsy it was. Watching it there, you'd have to see how flimsy the board rode out, and like just everything, chucking himself and like really going to your limit, like a Cardiel style. And but then Phil, and I didn't realize that Phil had a connection with me because he was thinking of me for a company when he was thinking of his own company. I learned that from Bruce Rodella. Yeah. So yeah, sorry, I'll go into my history. I can't get that right now. Anyway, Sorry. Oh, it's kids for my son. I'm just going to let my kids know.
No problem.
And now, another first impression from Timothy Donald McKenney.
First impressions of RJ. Probably Sugar Hill. Just ripping in Sugar Hill. But more importantly, him telling me that he had one of my boards on his wall. He was going through a rough breakup. Consolidated times. I think it was even, and he had an ad with her in a thing, but he broke up with his high school sweetheart, and he had my Demon Girl board on his wall. It's just this dark picture of a demon chick holding a heart and a dude just on the floor dead with his soul ripped out. He told me he had that after his breakup. And after that, dude, we were always friends. He sent me the postcard of him doing those curved rails, the ones you guys are all hyping now, the guy just Smith ground. Those are RJ's rail, fuck, that's his shit. And he sent me the postcard hyped, so there was a connection, RJ, and I love you. And I want to apologize for screaming all hyped during your run in Europe when you and Struben had killer ass lines. Your first line was insane. Second run, I was so stoked I started screaming down from the bleachers and fucked you up. I apologize. I love you. I hope you're doing good. Shout out.
So I'll go back to where I saw skateboarding. I mean, sorry I talk so much.
No, that's cool. I mean, obviously, Phil meant everything to me and Tim as well. Like, he was our local Jesse Paez or Tom Knox or Karma. Everybody kind of has these guys that like influence them a lot. And also that you see if this guy from my town can make it, maybe I can too, right? Yeah. And obviously, like, I didn't turn into a pro skater, but 100% like turning into a filmer was because my connection with Phil, and he opened up those doors, and then things like meeting you and stuff may never have happened. So like all those things I do not take for granted, and I count all the blessings.
someone's own formula, like how they're going to make it and what their artistry is. But it's good to find something you love pure and do that, whatever it is. But skateboarding was that for me. And just you have to work at things yourself and travel. And then there's a formula to being like great is like it's not just being good at skateboarding, but you can be good in your own groove. But it's also having that pure love for it, but then also being marketable. So then it's like the two together with being good or just the passion. I like to say every process, 90% progression. You have to progress and no genius without obsession. And so the real great projects come out because you kind of obsess too much over them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what I was to say, to run the interview a little bit, sorry, but I'm a little green with envy. Sorry, I meant to say, I feel like you found an emerald tablet a little bit because I'm an ancient relic and I always have too much information to download. And I'm a little green with envy about that. I always wanted to do a podcast because in a way, podcasts saved me from like going into the work world after skateboarding. So the whole idea of it was like I listen to high strangeness ones or like ancient history because I believe in knowing your past to know your future. And but I also go into the high strangeness too, which is like the Enochian architecture that is the biggest stones in the world. And so like it ties in all the story together when you really go down that rabbit hole. But I really don't like to say rabbit holes because I stay away from rabbits in general because the lucky rabbit foot was never lucky for the rabbit. And,
ooh.
Right? So
remember that Consolidated poster?
Yeah. So I was going to try to do a little bit of a timeline. So sorry for breaking this up and trying to make dad jokes, but
no, we're all over the map. We're going to be fucking here, there, and everywhere. We're going to go from Consolidated Video right into On the Road with New Deal. I don't care.
Yes.
Like,
because
everything.
I want to give the history a little bit. So that, like, I saw skateboarding first in the movie Back to the Future. And so within that movie, he holds on the back of cars and he pops his board going into high school. And that just seemed really impressionable. I was just a young kid, right? And the first time I actually saw skateboarding was in Hawaii, which I found significant later. Because the birthplace is surfing, so it's like, wow, I saw skating there, and I like that in my style, the way people surf, you know, or how people are more fluid there. So then got skateboards for Christmas in '86. So now it's almost 40 years of skateboarding. Once I hit 26.
26.
And so I've definitely been a scholar of skateboarding by definition of following skateboarding this long, and really appreciate that I grew up in the 80s, skateboarding in the 80s, to get like the later chunk of the art and the flashiness, and from the shorts to the boards, you know, like just seriously. And I just think there was such a great time of the 80s skateboarding, like almost the rebirth, or like a birth, but not the first birth, but the rebirth of skateboarding kind of happened for me in the 80s. If I would look at but that's just because I was born into skateboarding in the 80s, guess. But anyway. So,
no, but that's when people started getting really innovative and tricks were happening like every week. Like street skating in the way that we know it now didn't happen earlier than that. And we saw Mark Gonzalez, Nodis, these guys hit handrails and we're like, what the fuck? Start bench sliding benches and all that kind of stuff. And you know, you're kind of a pioneer when you think about like 50-50 grinding handrails. Like, what the hell are these guys doing? Right now people are just like, oh, he did 40 stairs, the last guy did 38. It's like, we've seen it, we just are seeing it longer.
No, I'm just kidding. I would never quit counting because it's still fun for me. I mean, I did 32 back in the day. And but yeah, I wanted to talk about Mark Gonzalez was the first pro we ever met in a skate shop. So I got to go to this rad first part of my skateboarding with my brother, who was more technical, and he got me to skate technical. And he's my brother Nathan, Holy Toledo on Instagram. He's my brother, and it was awesome to. We had great times of like other homies we met in town. Like my mom actually told us about a skate group on our way to work in a small town, and they happened to have a shredding little session on these 2 quarter pipes, 4-foot sidewalk. And 2 quarter pipes made the mini ramp, and I learned rock and rolls there. And then they first named me Pee-wee, whatever. So like but I watched Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and I loved that. So it was perfect. That I didn't like the like timid name, but it was a great. It was like Pee-wee Herman. I was like, yeah, okay, Pee-wee Herman. Yeah, I like Pee-wee Herman. So then I was Pee-wee and I was small. So, but the other guys were such an age gap that I got to skate with, and they're still good friends and influences to this day. Like how rad the guys were. They were just not sponsored. They were like rad enough, you know. I always swear I kept up with the greatest things Nodis and. This guy, greatest things Nodis or these guys were doing on ramp or street, but like going so big, and like Tony B, he's like Tony E now, but just seriously still my friends. And But Mark Gonzalez in the Grimmick skate shop, my brother and I got to go in there. And Mark Gonzalez and Mr. Grimmick were the ones there, and he was trying out a board for his nephew, and it was like a small kid size. And I actually started trying to ride freestyle boards because I wanted a smaller board. Like, I really appreciated mini boards back then, you know. We had minis for kids to start on, and like it was a thing. It was like the large, the medium, and mini. I was like, I don't know if you remember that, but like,
yeah.
Anyway, but there wasn't enough of them, so when I saw that board, he let me stand on it, and then Mr. Grimmick gave us rip grip packs. And then we put them on our boards later for like our grabs and stuff. And it was the sickest thing because I was double jointed. I was showing Mark I was bending my finger all the way back to my hand back then, and I was doing this. And he's like, grab the board and like, let me see that, and like on the board, like it was just sick. So, and hopefully he remembers it later, but like that was the funniest thing for us. And then I didn't know who he was, but my brother, we watched Savannah Slamma. I don't know, have you seen Savannah Slamma?
Of course, yeah.
And, well, you know. That's how he knew who Mark Gonzalez was when we were in there. And I was a little kid, younger, so I didn't really know who people were or catch that yet. I was just impressed by it, but not understanding who people were yet. And the big guys, of course, but it started after time. But especially when he tells me that, then I figured out, and I'm just as stoked because it was in that contest. Like, Savannah Slamma was sick. It was fun. It was different, you know. And it's just like, that's what skateboarding is.
Right. So, no, it's interesting that those were the first street contests, but they were mostly ramps. Yeah,
and all the guys that were in it, you know, are still so impressionable. So moving forward, skated with a good group there in Sanger, and then like the Sugar Hill skate park.
Sanger. Are you from Sanger or Clovis?
It was just in Clovis now, but it's Sanger, and it's all suburb of Fresno. If you looked at it that way, like it's 30 minutes to get all the way out here to Sanger.
I forgot about Sanger.
Yeah, on the outskirt of 3 towns, you know, basically. But yeah, so we got a good skate park in Sanger. I helped design it. I mostly designed it to Zach Wormhow, and he was gracious enough to let me design my hometown park. And so and I always, you know, you always wish you could do it better and greater, and so you have to do the next one but concrete's the most malleable. It's clay. You can shape it however you want if you really have the imagination. So.
No, dude, this is awesome. I love just fucking rapping out. How old do you think you were when you discovered the Vagabond? Like when that comes into your life?
That was right around when I graduated high school. So that was around 98 and 45 right now. So that was like 98. And
so you were like 16 or something?
Yeah, probably. I was probably 18 or 19. I feel like it was like 18 or 19 around that time. But it was
was that word of mouth? Like some skaters told you about it, or how did it come into your life?
History and the sickest dudes became my friends years after, and draining pools became this skate army, the best friends I've ever met in the world. You know, like the actual pool skating friends. Like there's a deeper connection because you know when it became more diluted as a sport, like a transcendental sport, and I'll get into that. But like as it got more diluted, you end up things matter more like that are less common. So like pool skating was less common, and the people that did it, and we're always looking for we're looking for a backwards bubble in the ground that's the most perfect bubbles, and the more bubbles you put together, it's just called pools, but really it's like waves. It's like all that. I mean, like, but it really the best round ones, the best shape, and I preferred in the end like the best ones over the other ones, and Tom Knox took us to one of the best ones. I kickflipped the shallow end of that one, and Tom Knox's lines in that were so mind-blowing, like his just legendary still tail tap, nose grab, whatever they're called, body jar. He did a bunch of other stuff, just textbook, and he was still so good when he ripped that pool, and it was one of the best pools we ever skated. So then I got the kickflip over and Peacock, some of the best ever hands to come to Fresno, Josh Henderson, Peacock, and he's worked hard at pool skating and just put his hands in it over the years later in film work. So then everything, he got his hands so into the game. Like I got to see so many of the best skaters come through the house when I lived with him. And it was like Ben Rayborn, Chris Russell. I mean, endless list of like the homie pool skaters to like the best of the best, and seeing them, the Dalton Dern brothers.
Yeah.
And then they cut off some of the biggest, gnarliest rails in Fresno. Like the other gatekeepers that came here and just blew doors off the biggest rails. And there's still a few great rails. And, you know, it's a valley, so it's harder to get like great rail pitches or great different ones. But man, I always wanted to try to do different shapes and stuff. And I eyeballed the one that Kyle Walker did that was like the 5 kinker that was in front of the Glendale High. And I had gone there, and, you know, I give him props for how high it is to ollie onto that one. but it was a rough ground too. And I don't know if they did some patchwork, but I remember when I went there, the ground was terrible. And I was also high, so like you have to go fast and go way out. And I just don't have the grasshopper legs. I swear he has legs for steel springs, or steel springs.
Oh yeah, Kyle's a leaper for sure.
Dude, like you can notice everywhere he gets on side.
What about that one Gravette did, like the last one of his part? It's somewhere down by you too, right? That white kinker?
He was out here too, and the sickest thing I saw him do was grinded the diving board, not the best pool either, so grinded the diving board that didn't even think it would grind, but he grinded it and went in. I feel like he did something more, but believe me, there's so much mind-blowing stuff living about Ben Rayborn. I was on Ben Rayborn's cover in the background. I'm photobombing, but just because I was there in the session, it was just us, and that was actually in my hometown Sanger, so that was not only me photobombing in my hometown of Sanger, like the only great pool that got on a cover of a skate mag in Sanger too. So he actually grinded the fence backwards. So I was there for the Ollie, and it was so prime. Just his legs are so bird-like, and he just did it so faintly. But he tapped nose and grinded truck on the way down. And it was like, you fucking have to be so ballsy to ride the fence that had these little clinker metals all the way down it. So it wasn't just fucking a perfect bar. Think about this. The way they manufactured the fence, it's got like little flat kinks all the way down, and this guy taps them all the way down on the truck, dude, like, and nose. Like just a nose scraper.
Holy crap, I remember that.
Oh, is someone else in the game? Let's do this.
That was Ben.
Oh, sick, Ben.
Yeah, I love Ben. He's one of my favorites.
I was like, was that real? He's so sick. Yeah,
we got a new little soundboard I'm playing with. This is the first time I ever had it. It's like a little pew pew pew.
Nice.
Who sent you?
Hey, but like getting back to the Vagabond, talk about skating with like Lincoln, Farmer, the Ox. These are guys that like household names for me, but maybe a lot of people didn't know about them. And I mean, these guys are the pool dudes, right? And Royce Nelson.
I have to start with, it was the greatest pool ever. It was downtown Fresno, and the homies found it. It was Dreddy Matt Soria, one of my best legendary pool mates in pool skating, and taught me and driven person. Surf, skate, snowboard in one day. That's the kind of person he is. And that's the place we're in where it's a possibility, though. But also Tony G, Anthony Gonzalez, they were skating together and just hitting the curb cuts in front of this abandoned building. And then it was like both of them looked in there. I forget which one looked first, but they basically at the same time were skating the curb jumps and looked through the fence because it was boarded up. And this pool went for almost 10 years, and it was like people started to know how good it was and started more coming. And you don't try to let people know how big, but when it was actually kind of a go. It was a pretty good go, and it was always a go until someone bought it real estate-wise and just developed down there. But like you couldn't stop that. But what happened was they found it and skated pools with Dreddy. Red Curb Skate Park was like where I kind of met Dreddy at the first time. But when the word we started skating pools together, and that was just always the old faithful pool that was always there. At the end of the day, we'd go skate everything, and then we'd go skate there. And it made the migration of those guys come, which they were called Pair Camp. And it was Lincoln, Flea, Brian, always Holly. So it's Lincoln, Nass, Ollie, and it was Brian Johnson, who is Flea from the Pool Skate Flea, and another guy, I can't remember his name, but then a bunch of Peacock, of course, but he wasn't Pair Camp, but he was one of the homies that came through. And there's more. There's too many. Everybody, we lose them. We have never forgets. But
right.
So the great crew that came through, and then then it progressed to the greatest people coming through, and everyone, forget how many great people came through, but I mean, it's the endless list of the greatest pros. Lance Mountain, got to skate with Lance Mountain, Rune Gliffberg, Mark Gonzalez showed up, and it was one day I was so sick, but they kind of left kind of early, but, and then, it was just, that pool itself was, so I had to, so I eyeballed my cover shot saying because really, let's think about it as a skateboarder. You see something that's not meant for skateboarding and architecture, and of course, why is street skating? It's because it's the most receivable part of skateboarding. I mean, way of skateboarding. So, of course, but finding stuff in the real environment to me is amazing. To see something with vision, what you're going to do on it, and then basically go and achieve something greater than. And what I like to do is look at other formulas. So, if someone did something great, I try to find something my own way to emulate it and do it differently because. good artists borrow, but great artists steal. And in that way, it's only by formula. You can see the fundamentals of something you like. If you like anything, you might realize there's fundamentals why you like it, and you break those apart. And then you take those fundamentals into your own formula, and you try to top the other person or thing. But it's really topping yourself, just like skateboarding. You're not topping people. You're topping. I like to top projects, or do a new creative project. So anyway, but yeah, so the Vagabond, and then we could talk about how I got sponsored, and that had to do with that skate park, Sugar Hill. And,
exactly. And who was that first sponsor? And how did it come? That's where I'd like to begin for sure.
Let's say it started with Red Curves was the first one. You have to tell Red Curves story first, and different owners. But John Padera's Iron Lion was the actual medium between both of them. He was the owner, but then he had one owner. So that guy would drive us to contest. The second owner, Brian Foote, and he would drive us and that's what a part of it is, to travel and go somewhere. And he would take us to these contests, like castle contests. And I skated with guys like Brent Kronmuller, and he would kill it. And he, like Rob Gonzalez with his friends, the homies from Long Beach, they would be doing like a little circle skate. And we would see these guys and get into, but then Focus Skate Shop saw me do a backside 180 that was huge, a floater across this giant pyramid. And then he gave me his card, and they started flowing me boards. Christian Soy's company, Focus, out of Chicken's Pool, out of the house. So it just sounded so cool too. And I got, I think, 1 or 2 board boxes. But just
that was your first. That
was my very first board sponsor, I would say, because that was sick. Focus. Dude, what a name! Think about it.
And Hosoi, legend.
And of course, it's Hosoi, and we all root for him. And so then Focus. That would have to be the true story, the first one. And then I was rising only because, let's say when I showed up to Red Curbs, it was the sickest environment. And it wasn't even like a legit skate park with insurance. So it was didn't want it in the paper, but it was. And that's how I found out about it. And I went over there, and it was I did this giant ollie in front of the owner, and he recognized me and sponsored me right away. But I saw Alan there, and that was a big deal because the giant quarter pipe on the face wall, it had chain link fence, pool table, tiny mini ramp, big mini ramp, crazy bowl parts, and just street. It was super legit as a skate park. But then Alan flying to the ceiling, almost touching his back on the ceiling, backside ollies that were he was just about touching the ceiling, but and it was already so high, you're it's way overhead what he's olling off of, and he's still going all over the ceiling. So that was the first seeing Alan Peterson, and got recognized by Alan, and I saw the respect behind Consolidated, and wanted to. You achieve different things by the sponsors you choose. Some might because you need to make income, and some might because their name helps you more than your name helps them. So someone like Consolidated, I felt that it would help my name because I respected Alan. I respected, so first hangout was Mark Gonzalez. First skate with was Jesse Paez and Richard Paez, and they were Consolidated right around that time after I skated with them. Then Jesse left to think, but Richard was still on, and I rode with Richard on a team, and basically it was an interesting dysfunctional family, I would say now looking back at it.
Was Karma still on?
Yes, Karma was the true, and same with Jason Jesse. He told me not to take out my slam because you have to see yourself falling, and I just think that's such a legit line. And then I would compare his skate part in that video, Kings of Promotion, my first video part. I would compare his part to what Skate Mafia is. If you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But he's all telling me, I'm going to have people dying in my part, famous people dying in my part. And it's took a weird angle for me to think about it. My brain's like a computer still loading. But when you see it, it's so Skate Mafia because it's all these mafia hits. And it's great. But that's how I would compare it.
Dude, his mind is...
My mind is a garden. I skateboard, but I'm an artist.
I love Jason forever.
Yeah, Consolidated was a comedy club, but I think comedy is the formula of skateboarding. When I realized, it was a comedy club in a way. They were great at that. That was their greatest attribute. So they were all amazing. Everybody, it was great. So,
were you involved in or did that come later where they did the dollar bill, the poop thing?
That was disgusting. That wasn't my layer of comedy, but because not every bathroom humor is funny to everyone. But anyway, it was so disgusting. It was funny the first time, I'll tell you what. And then Berto's next level. So and then Moish, rest in peace, did some of my art, my first board.
Shout out Moish.
Yeah, shout out to Moish. Cheers my coffee.
So how long were you on Consolidated?
It wasn't a long time. And it's funny how I started Consolidated because I was basically I still lived at my mom's house, so my income wasn't the hugest thing, but I was at the age where I was ready to get out of my house and start skating and traveling. And, you know, let's just say they were on a budget. And the conversation was like, hey, skateboarders don't make a lot of money. And I was basically straight up like, what about Chad Muska? Like, because that's the angle of visionary I was thinking as a skateboarder, not anything personal, you know. But it was funny, even funnier further, because they had done the ad about Chad Muska mixing, and he was mixing, which he was doing cool mixing, but like they made it funny, and that's just a poke. But like, reality is, I was staying at his house, and in the movie Feedback Transworld video, I got to stay with Peter Smolik, had a homie from Fresno that I got homies with, and I went with Peter Smolik, and we went to Chad's house, and it wasn't like I had any beef with him or he had any beef with me, but the fact that I rode for Consolidated, that was like a gut punch to him versus a gut punch to me, that I had to go, no, you can't stay here tonight, and you know, pissed off a legend, a heroine, a living hero, you know what I mean? Like, and to me, it wasn't my intention, and I didn't say, hey, I skate for the company, but I don't create the ads, like, and that was the most honest answer I could give. Is like, I do, like, but the feeling would obviously be, well, you got to back our stuff, you know, whatever. But that's not the only problem that why it was a dysfunctional family and I ended up leaving. But because I was in fact going and asking into City, because I liked the word think and I liked the name think, and I think every great company will live and die on a name that is great, not just one other thing. Or, you know, a good name is the start pinnacle of a great skateboard company, because you brand in the mind. Mental imagery is the skeleton key. Eyes to see. You know, you have to really... Shout
out to Nav, skeleton key, baby.
Yeah, I did. I heard about him. My brother told me about him, and I love Navs because I always loved the Vertical Vampire. And the other homies that I met with them, like Peter Hewitt and freaking Al Partnan and these guys from the group when I met them. The funniest line, I didn't finish the Jason Jesse lines. He said, don't forget to, don't take yourself out slamming. Like he basically said, we have to show ourselves slamming was the exact thing he said. And I like that because it's a beautiful thing to say, and it's Jason Jesse. But sorry, what was I saying before I sidetracked right there? Back to the Jason Jesse. I had better ones coming. Anyway.
No, we were just talking about Consolidated, and it was kind of like you weren't there that long, but you have to give them props for your first video part was that.
That was all Alan Peterson filming a lot, and to get close to Alan Peterson, I would always appreciate that he did so much for my first video. But I mean, I did the work behind the other side of the camera, but he did the work, kept finding me, filming me, getting me on a sponsor, and that was a lot to do with why I wrote for Consolidated, just because of who Alan was to me. Like,
of course,
I'd like to be like that guy, and he rips like I want to rip, and everything was like, he's got the formula. His mental, with every great athlete, a great mindset. If you're not any great athlete, you look at how they do things. They have to set their mind to something, and they're doing it for the focus that's love, not the, you know what I mean, like the hard parts. Anyway. But yeah.
So was most of that part in the valley, like around where you lived?
Which part are we talking about? Sorry,
the Consolidated.
Yeah, it happened to be a lot of Fresno spots. This one school, Francher Creek, that had crazy bars. I went up the 2 bars, which is hard to achieve again, but I think they're still there. But like that school had manic bars all over it, dude. Like but they were big and round, and they were too big, so they were funky bars. But you could board slide them pretty good, and they were low. They were like low to get on one side, and then get higher. And then there was a bunch of variations around the school. But I went up in the Consolidated first part, up to grind. I did it again in my new video part just because I loved that spot so much, and it was a natural street spot that's still just kind of wicked. Like, so I did it again in the new deal, not as well. I went all the way up the second one on my first.
Is that
part.
The one where AP split his head?
No, y'all did that in downtown Fresno on these. They're brick benches that are like very brick at the edge. So it was like there's 2, and he just started doing easy ollie up, and then ollie little gap, and then somehow he caught the second one with his head. But it was funny, they posted it like it was the car accident, but really it was the staples were from his head on a corner of a bench.
Right. Okay.
But Think Skateboards, I was riding around with you guys around that time, and hanging out with a lot of Think guys. So but I loved Think all around, and I just thought it was a better imagery of a company but I also drew the Consolidated, so that was a good image too, as far as to brand in the minds with the drawn image that I was drawing in high school. And that's smart imagery right there. That's really smart, you know, right? But anyway, so yeah, and then everything like Spitfire and things that are really great images, I really enjoy those, you know. But
so are you?
Greg, actually, I asked Greg Carroll to ride for Think, and this is the exact thing that ended it, was that Greg Carroll must have told his buddy, like, hey, your boy's asking to ride for us, like, I can't let him do that to you, or something like that. Probably what happened. I would assume that's the best. I think that's honorable, right? So I think that's the most honorable outcome. The way I think logically about it is probably what happened. But by the time I got home from one of the trips, I asked Greg, it was like, oh, we're not going to do it anymore. But I do have, I have my own experiences and my own opinion about what happened. And it was more dysfunctional when I got in there. And there's stuff that has to be handled diplomatically in private to talk about. But Jesse, Karma never did anything wrong. You know what I mean? Like, they were just great people. And I feel that there was a little double cross in the end to them. Whatever. That's not so good.
Well, I mean, getting rid of the Paez brothers kind of was the spiral I wasn't involved, but seeing Jesse and just seeing, I talked to Andy Roy, and those guys were telling me a story about getting a phone call on a trip where they kicked Jesse off, and then they all went mental and was like, what the fuck, you can't, this is the homie. And then,
that's weird.
And then people started quitting slowly. And then I think Jason spun out and fucking let a snake loose in the office or something. Like, I've heard wild stories about that era.
If I was to be exact, an analytical story from the way I heard it is that Jesse thought he was an owner as part of the deal. So if you're a deal that I'm part owner, that's Jason Jesse. So like, all I understand is that he found out he wasn't part owner from what I heard. And if that's, I don't mean to air anyone's dirty laundry, but like, things just are what they are and past, that's why it's 2020 hindsight. So the point is, that companies, that they should treat their legends well, they should honor them, or whatever built this. And I think, so only end to that is just a dysfunctional family, not my story to tell, more or less.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's why I left at the same time, because Jason, actually, I'd have to air out Alan if I told the whole story, but basically Jason made a pact with the team, we're going to leave. And basically that was the double cross that from Alan to go and tell before the whole team left. Jesse felt double crossed. And then that's when Mickey Reyes came to Alan and said, you don't know loyalty, no more Thunder, no more Spitfire. That's what happened. And then he had the gall to flip me off when I was wearing a Spitfire jacket. He hooked me up with the Spitfire jacket. So, but I still honor him. Other than that story being just my own experience, my own opinion, I've shaped the toy soldier that I am, and I have my own thoughts, and I'm not afraid of anything. I'm getting older, braver, bolder. I still stay a soldier. I'm painting a toy soldier. I mean, we paint ourselves. We paint others with our creativity or our experiences, Yeah. So that's part of the art. I've been doing a lot of... So after skateboarding slowed down, I started writing, or I started thinking in my head. I never wrote them down back then, but I had sort of like haikus that were like my thoughts that became my philosophies. And I like to break down philosophies and fundamentals differently, like the whole mental toolbox. So when I want to do something, a project, I liked like a podcast, because I wanted to do a podcast from watching a great podcast called Higher Side Chats, and it's High Strangeness, Greg Carlwood. And it was epic for me going into that world of different topics, far-reaching, but he was very good in his formula, that he actually knew a lot about the guests, and he read about them, stuff that they were surprised he knew. He did this great intro about them that people were surprised every intro, and the music was great, and then the way he asked great questions, because he was intrigued enough to know and everything about the person, and then it just became a great formula. And there's other formulas about it that are great, because High Strangeness is fun. Reverse interview, have you ever seen any High Strangeness on your travels?
Is that like Sasquatch?
It could be whatever you want, Sasquatch or otherwise.
I mean, we've been up in the Northern California regions where it's really interesting, like some weird roadside attractions. I'll just call them that. Like there's a lot of different areas where you drive through and you're like, whoa, people look at things a lot differently here. Like there's this just abundance of like Sasquatch stuff up there, and it's really interesting to just be like, what made this happen here and not elsewhere, or vice versa. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the moon has a lot to do with things for me, like the full moon versus no moon and all that stuff, like moods and all that stuff, right?
Yes, dude. Green Night, Greenwich Village. counterculture, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But did you go from Consolidated? Did you go to Scarecrow then, or what was the next?
So what happened was that was when the end happened, and it was frankly Jason Jesse phone call, but I still honor him. Like I've met him, hugged him, and seen him many times after. So then I needed a new deal, so I ended up finding New Deal. It seemed like the best one. I actually was asked to ride for Sonic, but just the way Consolidated taught me a lesson about being with the wrong company that doesn't get along with the wrong people, it's a gut punch in the wrong way. So it's not even deserved. But again, it's like I shouldn't have had to feel ashamed by my idol that I wrote for Consolidated. I'm not that it matters now, but I'm trying to point out more the fundamental, not. So I wrote for New Deal, not Sonic, and I felt bad for not going with Tom Knox because he was the one trying to get me on, and he was great. Still made my own decision, which I feel bad for not honoring him and choosing that. But there was a thing about the city and them, and I heard that, and it was in the ear. I was like, oh, the city doesn't like them in the city. How are you not going to be liked in SF? Like, I don't know if that's a good idea to go. Anyway, so it just seemed that was the real ear thing that messed it up for me writing for Sonic. But then New Deal seemed like a better house, stronger foundation. And the Darren Navarrete line to me was, I liked you better when you were on Consolidated. And it's like, I thought about it too late, but I'm like, I like me better now on New Deal. It's like I get paid more. I get to travel. Like I pay a budget. Like I got a budget to travel. I rode on a bus to the East Coast with Consolidated's budget. Like they sent me a $98 bus ticket. You get a bus ticket, and I rode. I swear, my friend picked me up, Natter. Anyway,
oh my goodness!
So then I got on New Deal, and that was really sick because they had a travel budget, and I got to go so many places. And I had already been to Europe in like '93 and '94. Our dad lived out there, so like we went out there and we saw like that German museum that has like this crazy architecture and the double 3 set, and then these crazy big, and these walls are kind of slanted and stuff there, and it's just the most amazing architecture that you can still skate there. And so it was just, and we saw graffiti out there. It was amazing, and street spots, and we got to skate. I got some footage back then, pretty gnarly triple set board slide, like a caveman to board slide across the triple set in Czech Republic out in one of these little towns. So I had a little footage somewhere. Anyway, one of these days I'll go through the VHS tapes and get some of the sick old footage. But
yeah, it's so sick looking back on that stuff. Is that early on when you're when you go to Europe? Are you a part of the contest series then, like doing Prague and all those ones, or is that later?
Yeah. So my first year going to Europe was '98. I went from '98 to '93 to 2003 and competed in the World Cup contests. And my best year finish was 2000. Where I actually got second place in the World Championship, second to Eric Costin. So I'm happy with that, placing forever. But then first place North American champion. So I landed a North American champion and a second place world champion in the same year, 2000. So my best year kind of laid out that way in the past tense, you know? So, but still, I like to see when I have 20-year tricks and like, because it's really the vision we're trying to achieve, and doing something that no one was seeing is how you fit in your groove in skating. Like, because you could look at skating back in the day and go, gosh, people are going to keep getting so good that one day you're just going to need to skate everything good like an all-terrain vehicle, right? So there's a philosophy of mine about skateboarding back then that we need to skate all-terrain just to be in the game later on, like John Cardiel or people like that, you know? I think I thought this before then, but the idea is basically just... So where was I going with that? You want to lead the interview a little bit? I'm sorry. Let me take a breath.
Oh, yeah. No, we were talking about skating the contest in 2000. You do first in North America and second in the world.
So my first year was 98 with Consolidated, and I rode a bus to the East Coast, and I rode for Nice skate shoes, which was really amazing.
Oh,
yeah. Because only because I liked that, but like only because, and the guys were great, but I liked, I rode with Vinty Ponti. I went to Europe my first year and teamed up with Vinny Ponti, the guy who only loved stairs first, and he was like my travel mate or whatever, and because we rode for Nice, and I liked the name, but I was offered to ride for Vans, and I really failed in riding for such a great company and choosing them, but it was just a problem with my feet were too wide, like a hobbit foot, and I never could really skate in them right. You could see one of my greatest slams was trying the City Hall rail with Vans, and the Vans are what fall off, but I felt the connection wasn't right. So my failure for not choosing them early on, because I wouldn't be riding a bus to the East Coast, right? But that's okay. So I worked pretty hard for New Deal, though, I'd say. I really tried to put all my steam into this. This was my big chance. And I love when I really looked at what the idea is behind it, because it really is saying like a satire, like we need a new deal. And it's from the English too. It's even like them saying we need a new deal. It's so epic, like when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so then if I needed a new deal, like a paycheck or a deal to travel around the world and skate and get my best years into the years of skating, you know? So,
well, that was Douglas and those guys on Element wanting to branch out and starting their new deal.
Yeah, exactly. Bob Boyle had the sickest graphic I had on the wall forever too, and then he was the actual one who delivered the news I was getting kicked off. But like that's like the end. But he was still sweet, and everybody
was that a cat piss? What was Bod's graphic?
Cat throwing up in the toilet, and then the top was the ice pack on his head, all curled up.
Like hungover cat.
Yeah, it was so good. I gave it away, I believe, or something, but. So yeah, 98, and then it was like, I don't have to remember all the contests, but the next year was 99, and then New Deal sponsored me by then, and that's when I got to go to Marseille. That was the first contest, and I met Bruce Martin there. I met so many cool people, and you know, my room became the hangout that year. And like Matt Moffat, he climbed out my balcony, a 3rd-story balcony, and climbed on the roof of the balcony. And I got a picture of him through it. And like I always had like the disposable cameras, so I'd try to like get the journeys, and so I got like all these great pictures. But like, dude, so many great guys stayed, or we hung out in my hotel room. It was just became the hangout, and. So Tom Penny was cruising around with a mob of people and ended up staying in my hotel or just mobbing my room. And even when I left this like band of gypsy guys in there with Tom Penny. I thought it was still Tom Penny sleeping on like my bed or one of the beds. And he's like, he looked like a sailor that had lost his mind at sea, how his face and his facial hair was. But like he took my board and skated my board. He said, "Can I ride your board?" And he did wow, you ride big wheels. Wow, you got a big setup. It's crazy. And then he took a badass mobbing line in the freaking Marseille Bowl, just cruised it, and he just came from like being a beach bum to like ripping the board. And I told him like, we always appreciate your skating out west where I live. It's like it doesn't matter where you go or when you come back, we'll always love your skating, kind of something like that. Something paraphrasing, but you know. And then
Penny's the best.
And then but yeah, I kept going back. So 99 was not my like most successful year, but I was getting, I think my first Slam City Jam I got 13th. And that was when New Deal picked me up. I actually met the dudes and met up together. And yeah. I'll speak from my own opinion and experience by saying that New Deal glitched in, but it actually kind of bitched out. What happened to me was a little bit of a bad experience because they were passing notes on a train when we were all a team on the train. And guys like Chad Barty didn't get taken along, and like myself. And if you really want to look at the past and look at how any of the photos laid out in any of the ads, or when I went, not ads, but the trips, the tours specifically. And if you look who had the most photos, I literally had worked hard enough, worked my butt off for the company, and then they didn't pick me for their new idea and did note passing on a train to rename the company. Like, that's bitching out. That's what happened with 7 Year Glitched In, and it kind of bitched out. Sorry, but it's just my experience how it played out, you know. And they actually formed a new name at the company that didn't take Jab Barty, the first guy. And that's why I would say that, in my opinion. We're all shaped by our experiences, you know, our friends.
What was that? What did that become?
They tried to call it Pop War, but I only ever
Pop War, yeah, with Cairo and Kenny Reed.
Did they still do it?
They
still do it.
Well, yeah, there was a pop war company out of Giant.
Well, I love Cairo was, I would never tarnish Cairo's name, but I had to call it Pop Was, because what they did was so under the carpet to me, and I had just busted a giant blue handrail. And like, I know I had my deficiencies as a person, non-neurotypical brain or whatever, but like seriously, the part that when everybody puts in the work, I mean, it's like, if you really just look at it from that standpoint, like I just felt a little blindsided that like I did work. I would even work harder if I had the chance again. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's the way I see it when you go back to work life from getting to do that. And then like, I know I worked pretty hard, but I would work even harder if I had that chance again. You know, that's the real thought, right? Like a solution survivors thinks to go. That's how special it was, you know? And so in my mind, it's like, but I know I did at least work hard enough when I can see the tours we had together, and like, bop, 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 bop. I have at least 1 or 2 more photos than everybody on the team. And like, how many other guys had 2 covers? So let's go back to the Thrasher cover. I called it out because I know Alan tried it first to roll in. It was with another guy from Visalia. And basically they didn't, though, because he bailed and it was so gnarly. I don't blame him. It's so gnarly. Like, you really got to decide to go if you're going to do it. Like, you can't just be like, I'm only going to barely try this. But the big ups to them for even rolling in that day and trying it over and over somehow. I wasn't there, but that's what I heard. And I still think that's dope. But so then, like, I was just lucky enough to be like, hey, I'm ready to try this. I had the confidence in my transition riding. It's a centrifugal force with that amazing speed you're going to get, right? It's like centrifugal force when you come in with the round bowl and you're like, shh, that's what you got to ride out. And so I rolled 16 feet but it's on the Ryan Johnson rips on YouTube, and I throw my board in first. I think what's so important to illustrate how dangerous it is, just seeing the natural, like, throw the board in, and you can see where I'm aiming. I'm seeing how my board's going to land and stuff, and I shot it right, and then I go for it. And that the idea that he's telling me you got to do it twice is just nuts, because you go, oh my God, I got to do it twice. Like,
who's that? Michael Burnett?
It was Mike Burnett, yeah. And now he's the editor, so sick, yeah.
Yeah.
And
so that was a young Mike Burnett. He was an editor yet.
Yeah, and he was a tour photographer on a New Deal trip a time or 2 or more. I don't remember how many.
Oh, wow.
Maybe at least twice, something like that. So we had been around together. I think we went to Colorado where he's from. Yeah, I was sick, though. And so it was cool that I could get to call him, and we have a friendship, and it was like he's willing to and everything, because it's an honor, right? And but what's funny is that I told him, I said, I got something. Like, I said, I have a Thrasher cover. I'd like to shoot a Thrasher cover. What do you got? It's like, rolling off the roof of Vagabond, and he's just like, oh, all right, like okay, like getting the check marks. It's pretty crazy for me. That's a big deal. But yeah, doing it twice was a big deal. And I like the long shot better, because the little photo, I really wish I could get the long shot again, because how much better, and it was only printed very small. But that's the real sick shot, because if you look, the Vagabond sign is just boom in the background.
Oh yeah.
Distance, because then you're not talking. It's a 7-foot 2x4 to go to a 9-foot deep bowl, and I'm catching 2 feet below the coping when I start riding out the bowl. So like 2 feet below, and then you measure it, and it was 16 feet where I slid out. So like my first roll, I went all the way through my freaking centrifugal force, and then lost control going up the waterfall, because it was just like whoosh. And then my second roll, I'm like, I leaned back a little bit. Maybe I'll lean more forward this time to like ride faster out. Stay in front of it. This is pyramid of balance, by the way. So like getting in front of your speed with your triangle. And so I tried to do that, but got my chin. I have a map of skate parks on my face and scars, and it's like Fresno Park, Burnside.
Fuck. That's a gnar, dude. That's gnar. To this day, it's gnar.
Yes. Then that roll in, it turned out well enough and just got a scar, but I bounced to my chin in the footage. It's on that Ryan Johnson rips. But like also the City Hall Fresno, those were my 2 covers, and then like that was my most timeless tricks, because I would ask people like, what's your most timeless trick to you? Because it's not just when someone hasn't done it in 20 years. It's kind of like, what do you think that you like the best about? So there's some ways you do it differently, and it's just timeless, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
let's talk about that handrail, because I'm guessing that you had seen that handrail for a while growing up, or at least like leading up to this, like, holy shit, I know about this rail. And then like, how long had you known about it before you actually skate it?
Oh, that makes sense. Well, it wasn't very long, because it was a new building. They built the new City Hall at that time, and then rolled up there with some real legendary G's, and it was like Karma, Alan Peterson, Solomon Agaw was there. I believe both the Paez brothers were there. I feel like we had a full crew, like Dale Blackman from Visalia, and the thing about Fresno had a great skate team, but we didn't have
Garner.
We didn't have as many pros birthed out of Fresno as Visalia. When you talk about the endless list of pros that came out of Visalia, it only tends to sound like a stronger skate scene, like, because it was strong. It was always stronger a little bit to me. So as far as the hindsight's 2020, you got how many pros? Non Zip, Carm Tasha, Tom Knox, Jesse Richard. The list does go on, if I don't remember all of them right now. But
Tim Garner, right?
Tim Garner, yeah, that's right. That's the one who rolled with Alan off the roof. And
yeah.
And
okay, so do you? So the first time you go with all these guys, do you actually make it, or is that like how long does it take you to?
No, that's not even. That was just a roll-up day, and Alan's words were the best because he said the first person who does this doesn't have to skate for a month, and that's only a metaphor, of course. But like, because really you're going to skate as soon as your legs are okay. But it wasn't. It's not a tragic rail to skate because it also has a low pitch and long, easy rail. So there's factors that make a rail more dangerous: the steepness, the hard edges of the stairs. And these are stairs you can almost run out because they're low and long. So it's really the distance and the turning curve, which were epic, and it's a round rail. And then it's a little bit of an aluminum rail, so it makes a different factor of how it grinds. It's not the best rail to grind, it's aluminum.
Right.
So that's going to damage, the more people kill it. It's going to do all these things, and that's what happened to it a little bit, but it's still sick. It held up to time, but so the fact that Thrasher would send guys to do one side when like Rocky Norton was there when I did both sides, and then I clipped the footage on my Ryan Johnson Rips video, but like I have the footage somewhere. I'm trying not to kill it in the storage, you know, when it overheats or whatever. But I'm like, I have the footage of like Rocky Norton gave me, or however filmer I've edited it with, and still have it on tape. Anyway, but that's what ended up being the Ryan Johnson Rips video for me to try and get sponsors at that time. It was getting hard in 2003, but Scarecrow was my last. So New Deal was sick. What they did for traveling and how many sponsors they gave me, like America. Like, they did it, the most legit business I ever experienced as a skateboard company, first off. And so I loved all of them. But, you know, just the way the team things split off, I frankly have to just joke about it the way I said it from my experience, you know. It's just a joke.
No, of course.
You know.
Through that whole time, are you on Thunder? Are you on Thunder trucks?
I've still gotten boxes from Thunder thanks to Pete Piazza, and he's the one who I just contacted.
Shout out Pete.
Every long time away, and still keep skating. But like, I'm working on my legs and my jump right now, trying to get my jump back. So I'm working on that. As far as I've done physical therapy for a while, and I started thinking of it as skate therapy, and that's something I want to do, is have more skate therapy.
For sure. No.
But anyway, but I got lines in my head and things I want to accomplish very soon. There's always that work-life balance and family
rad.
When you can go skate, you know. So like, it has to take the back burner when there's more important things, you know. But well, I would say so. The contests were great, and I got to do it until 2003. And I know I met Jim Gray at the when I won Slam City Jam. He was like real kind to talk to, and I believe like the person who has the most fun wins, or he who has the most fun wins. It's not always a he, but the idea is when my skating, they always knew I was, the Bostics would say, oh, you always have the biggest smile out there. We could tell you're having the most fun. And that was like my concept, is like, he who has the most fun wins, right?
Right. Or no, 100%.
Or whatever, you know, but that's why it's like really about having the most fun. And that's, I think, thinking like a child. When you skate, it's like, it's an element of like what Mark Gonzalez is doing, right? You know. But anyway, so then.
So we're at Scarecrow, like going from New Deal to Scarecrow.
It wasn't an exact transition. I don't remember everything. I don't have to go into all of them. We could talk about tons of stories, but as I can remember them. But Scarecrow is epic for the graphic, and I had more input in my graphics, and even getting Nautice to do our graphics at Giant was such an opportunity, and to sit with him at a bar and have a beer with him and just talk about seeing his videos when I was young, and still seeing it from like the 80s kid, talking to him like, and each of his Streets on Fire, Wheels on Fire, those video parts are so sick, and like getting to sit with them still is like, even like my friends were skating to that level and taught me to be as ninja as you can, you know. and then but to sit next to any of our idol living legends like Heroines, whatever, it's like the ones that shined and showed us that we could shine, divine spark, you know.
Yeah. Well, I got a good one. I got a good question for you, because I know like you went up to Burnside. What is your first memory, first impression of going to Burnside for the first time and seeing this DIY skate park? Like, you know.
I don't understand how I won up to Burnside, but it sounds cool. But also,
no, you didn't one up. You went there.
Oh, I went up. Okay.
Yeah, you went up to Oregon to Burnside.
I love it. All the best people were bred there too, shaped there. But what I liked was the street spot I found when we were traveling to and from Mount Hood on that trip, and Van sponsored it, and it was a really cool trip, a crazy trip. But Volcom had like an RV at some time, went up there too. Choppy Omega was riding the roof of the RV for a while until it got too crazy on the road, and then it was like, stop.
Choppy.
It was the Volcom thing I rode, and it was sick. And but on the way to Mount Hood, I saw a roof roll, and there's the very first trick in Kings of Promotion that I have, and that's the video part that turned me pro. But I swear, like, the visionary street spot in that first trick is so sick because it's a roof of a fast food restaurant that had curves and gutters, and the gutters were just wide enough, like 2 feet or more, so you do have to stay straight. But then the next thing is riding across the glass plexi and knowing if it's going to hold you, how well it's built for you. So it was like all those dangers were still there, but it was so perfect because it even left off low to the ground, and then it rolled was the only thing that jacked me. If I would have done it again, I would have tried to ollie out, but I hurt my ankle. But it was still like, we got kicked out pretty fast too. I would have tried it with the hurt ankle, but I remember being kicked out so fast. But I got to show one of the guys at Burnside, it was Little John, and I showed Little John the footage of it, and he was so piqued interest that like he remembered me after, and he was like, where is that? I never found that. I've looked for it. I was like, I don't know. We were driving towards Mount Hood on one of the roads, and they must have like tore it out because it was either someone bought it or they tore it out right away because he was saying right away he was going looking for it and it was never there. But I don't know how far we were from Burnside when we were doing this drive, so I just knew it was like going out and then it was there off the right hand side, and then it was the main road to Hood. And I like that kind of visionary. That's what I think of as like when skaters think that's not made for skating, but you saw some line there. And I also like hidden pathways on a skateboard where you kind of see something no one would have thought was a path on a skateboard. But it's just like as simple as visionary as it could be, though. That's for a skateboard. I love that kind of
that
stuff.
Hensley photo on the hat. The roof that's shaped like a hat.
There you go. Bingo. And of course, Hensley, original OG skateboarder, or street skateboarder, and always every one favorite was like Matt Hensley was a favorite at a time. H Street Time, man. Great song.
And one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
Well, which video part are you most proud of looking back at those ones? Which one do you think is your your favorite?
It's funny because I always felt like I was trying to reach the highest I could, and so it's more like the tricks that were timeless than the actual part, because I never felt I reached what I was trying to. But when you reach high and you land very high by default, you may not reach how high you wanted to reach. But I don't know. I was proud of certain tricks within all my video parts. I'd have to put it more that way, that I know what was harder for me. Or like when I kickflip between the bars in Fresno, are really rad. Like I kickflip between all 4 bars when I kind of tucked and I almost landed on the curb. Because if you watch the whole thing, the Noodle team was there in Fresno, and I since saw that rail, and it actually is all cut off now, so it's like so low to get on, and you can go up it. Like you can do like the most technical, and then on one side it has a little jump, so you could do a ton of tricks on this now that they cut the bar. But I went between all 4 bars, and I like things like that you might not notice the nuance of. Like I also had to miss the curb from where it was shooting me because I had to go between all 4 bars, kickflipped, and the New Deal team's there, and like I kickflip it all tight, and then land on the curb, and my board like land like side by side. I'm literally almost scraping the curb when I land too, and I have to turn away from the curb. But I like that in the part. But I liked my Pima Banks ollie because I get like mad respect. Burnett tells me that when they go there, people say he ollied this, and like I get to like be mentioned. But like I was on that trip going. My vision was to ollie over a set of stairs with 2 banks on it, and I didn't know which one I was going to find. But I saw one in Tulsa or Tucson. There was a great one in Tucson that was mini and small and not really great. That one was great. Like, and the only reason I did it first is because I rode it like the shallow end of a pool, which is long angle to get up. Like when you're looking at a steep wall, you have to look at it long line will take you a less angle. It changes the angle from this like up a bank to now you're going sideways like a shallow, and you have to go long and low on a shallow end. So it's the same concept of getting in, but it's a double pump because banks suck to go up the bottom of the bank. So it's like you pump once, you get the flat and rest, and give that second pump, and that's where the ollie comes from, the second pump. I want to go back and do it, and I'm trying to devise the best speed mechanism to like get into it. I bought a Banshee bungee because like just to use that to get out of bed. No, I'm just kidding. My grandma used to do that. No, but seriously, I wanted to mine was too short, and I like saw the Scheckler one. It must be longer because like you gotta really get it to stretch and then pull you. I wasn't getting enough speed. I felt like my car was out of gas. I was like, that sucked, But anyway,
Corey Duffel was sponsored by Banshee Bungee.
I want to go in Ollie at frontside for sure. I'm going back to Ollie. I'm not like Mark my words, I'm going back to Ollie it because no one's done it in 20 years, and I just believe I know how to do it if I have the momentum. I just got to get my jump back. But the second thing is like I want to use as much strategy like a mini bike, electric bike, just pull me into it or whatever I have to do. But backside's harder. But I really want to backside, and I really want to try to kickflip, grab, indie. Like kickflip over it because I know I can. Like I know I can do all those things. I've been there in my mind a bunch of times, but I can never get back there in the body. But I've been there. Trust me, I've been skating it. You know what I mean? Like that's what it takes. That great mindset. Like so, I know how to do the back one. I know how to do the curve. You almost need to build a ramp like they did at freaking Wallenberg was the steps. You know they built the ramp. And it's just like just throw a ramp and just do it. Like and then if I get
we'll get a U-Haul and we'll bring the Wallenberg ramp out to your spot.
Let's set it up. Like my legs, I'm acquiring my jump back. I swear. When I can get out to Arizona, I'm not kidding. I'm gonna do frontside at least. But my ultimate claimer is that I want to do it backside to close it out because no one's done backside either, right? But then that would be my ultimate goal. It's just a harder angle to achieve that. But if I built my flat bank, I could totally do it. But the other thing I really want to do is the kickflip. So the ramp would achieve kickflip back. Because that's just one of my bag tricks. And even as old and decrepit as I am, I could still huck it enough. And if my toe doesn't fall off, if the skeleton holds together, you know what I mean? Like, seriously. But I know how to do it up here, right? And I'm just trying to get the body to catch up with the mind, right?
So I think I noticed something. I think we're all over the place, and I don't think we really even finished the talk about the long rail, the city hall. When you like when you the last we were at, you were rolling up with the crew, but that was just the roll up.
Sorry, the thing about City Hall is that we saw it then, and I would try to come back when you're not getting kicked out. It was only on a Sunday, and you'd get kicked out even then on 10 tries. So I came back over a year long. From the first day we saw it, and it was new rail, and it was like you have to adapt to get it there. And so every time I'd go and I had the legs for it, I'd try it and get kicked out in 10 tries. So I would say maybe 5 to 7 times over a year I had tried it, like my big attempts for it, because it's one of those things, you go when you're ready, you've been practicing. So so by the time I did it the first time, was just the homie skaters, my brother, like stepbrother, kind of an adopted brother, Benny, and like we all rolled up to it, and like you can hear them scream in the background, how epic, and that's in the Hillbilly Roadkill video at the end. That's the one, and you can hear my brother scream, and I love just hearing them in it. It's just like that's the way skateboarding should be anyway, right? It's like we're just all wild and and then so. It was sick that anytime my brother got to be a part of experience, it's just rad because we were first skating. So, and there's funny stories about us. We had a pile of roller skates in the garage, and the other skate crew would like, "What kind of wheels are you skating? Those are rad." And then we have a pile in our garage, and like just kids that didn't realize the value of my mom's like roller skates. And I just like one day all the skaters came over and we just took all the wheels, and she's like, finally came home. What's happening? Where did all the wheels go? Why is this happening? Stop! Give me those wheels. And some of the wheels are all skating off. like straight up. But back to the rails as far as I got it in Hillbilly Roadkill, and I tried it in Consolidated video, but that one I had slammed on it, and it was a pretty tough slam. But
what was the issue? Were you sticking because it was aluminum, or was it just hard to balance for that long?
I would say my shoes, I realized that day, the ones that I particularly had weren't fitting the rail. They weren't fitting the connection to the board was not perfect for what I want to achieve.
You're blaming Vans. I see.
I'm trying to do a transcendental sport from impossible to possible. Everything we ever see, all impossible. But the whole idea of transcendental sport, we transcend the impossible, and we do something because we've seen the greats do something we didn't think was possible, and then we overcome our own impossible. And then it goes into your life how you can achieve things because you already have achieved a lot of impossible things that seemed impossible, right? My brother and I had that conversation lots of times. But so getting back to the rail that time, and then I got on New Deal. That was around Consolidated when I finally landed it, and I had Spitfire shirt on because I got sponsored by Spitfire from Allen, and I was wearing Spitfire, one of the styles. In both of the first shots, I felt like I was wearing it. Well, anyway, I just actually first 2 times I made it. The other footage, I don't know where the second time would be other side, right? So this side, then I made other side. I had 2 Spitfire shirts. I loved how they're the different color, just the face. That was rad, the original footage. Then I had the day with Rocky Norton, where I tried the old school style of we have one filmer and we have a fisheye and long lens, and we're going to shoot it once long lens, then we're going to shoot a fisheye, and then we're going to shoot the other side both ways again, right? So that's 4 shots. I got through 3 of those. So on that day, I did one side and 2 angles, and that's the side that I chopped together. And then on the other side, we left the footage like the full thing. But you can see that in that day, if you really believe my story, and Rocky is the one to attest to it because he was there.
Rocky.
So it's just rad to me because that was when I did both sides in one day, 3 attempts made. Not 4, not double angle both times, but I got a fish and long lens on one side. That's the harder side. I realized later this was the way harder side. You know why? Because a lock-in is heel. Your back foot would be toe wheel, so it's heel, toe, and then.
Just for people that don't know, is one side backside and the other side front side, but they're the same amount of stairs?
That's a perfect question. That's the most analytical. Yeah, the idea is that you can actually all it onto it. It's so long, it's almost straight at the top. You don't really feel that curve. It's so big and far of a giant radius. So the whole idea is actually you can ollie front side both ways, and it was easier for me to get up high front side, especially a bar. But I could go all the way up on a ledge back then high, but I didn't like the contact on a bar, and I could never. That's when I hurt myself, and I feel like I've in the first video part I tip on my head, and that fear comes from that bad injury hitting your head on a bar, like falling off the bar backwards. That's not how you're supposed to do it if you're imagining it right. So so then there was the Rocky Norton time, and then there was the Pete Thompson time that came and got the Transworld cover, and from the memory of it, it was like. Twice and then 3 times in one day, and then going back Transworld cover. So I've done it 3 times. That took 6. Twice, 3 times, and 6 times. So I made them 6 times. But then I called out Thrasher saying, "How is everybody just doing one side and thinking that's the challenge? Like, really, let's call it the challenge it really was, because that's the truth that happened. Do both sides if you got. I mean, they are greater now. They're so great that it should be easy. It should be a piece of cake, really, because it's not as hard as some rails." It's kind of a piece of cake along the ride. So, but the hardest thing is getting a legit try at it, and then getting the lumen grind if it's not damaged.
You get kicked out pretty quick.
Yeah, it's even gotten more high profile, I would say, because I haven't even tried in years. But I heard even Steve Cab tried to board slide it. I heard Costin tried it or something like that.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I heard things. Then the Thrasher King of the Road would bike lock the rail, so. Some of the guys were doing it to the other team, so they get it, and then they can't do it, right? And it's one side, so come on, man, do both sides. No, but it was funny because my roommate was Peacock, and he'd get the keys to the locks. They'd say, "We hid the keys right here, Peacock," and you can go ahead and unlock them once the teams go by. And it's like that's how sick and legit it was. It was just I'm glad you got the freaking thing, because that'd be horrible for us if they did that to our rails and didn't leave the keys. It's just cool for them and cool for you.
Yeah.
That was sick.
Oh man! Well, what was it when Pete Thompson came out? Did he bring a filmer? Was it in the Transworld video?
No, yes, it was Ewan Bowman from England. I remember.
Bodef's son, my homie.
You know him, sick. He's sick. So
yeah, he works for Thrasher now.
He does. Cool, nice. So it was pretty amazing. 2 great film. I mean, I toured with Pete as well. So to get him to come to my town, and that's the New Deal, and I lined that up. Giant lined up a lot. So. It was sick to just an honor that they even shot photos with me. So of course, but having the angle and the line and then the architecture's there, it's just both a balance of luck and mindset and focus. It's all those things. It doesn't just happen. So
if you could only put one up on your wall, one cover, which one do you put up? You put the rail or you put the rolling?
It probably would be the rail, because I had an experience with the mag being in Argentina and buying myself on the magazine, and I literally skated across Buenos Aires, Argentina, all the way to where this kiosk was. It was somebody who told me. I'm trying to remember. I know it was probably one of those guys I mentioned that told me, but I remember it might have been Burnett actually. I feel like.
Wait, you're in Buenos Aires when you find out that you got the cover?
I saw the magazine. I saw your magazine Transworld cover on a kiosk in town. I'll tell you where it is if you want to go get one. And I was like, yes, I want to go buy one. My own magazine in Buenos Aires. So I showed the magazine kiosk guy I had to show him my ID for him to believe me, but I was saying, this is me. this is me on here. Look at this. I'm buying it, and it's me. Like, all stoked. And it's Fresno, California. Looking, I had to show him my ID to believe me. And it showed Fresno, California. It said Fresno, California, which is even cooler because both of my covers were 5 city blocks, like 5 major city block intersections from each other, almost, you could say. It's like stoplight system kind of thing. But it's hard to say one or the other because they were both, those two were my most impactful things, getting coverage, because to get on a cover or to see the greats.
It's huge.
And then Transworld made a mark too, and to get in the feedback video, I got the front board slide and then shot out my board in it's the middle section between parts, one of Muska's greatest parts, but like feedback, Transworld, and basically I front board slide between a section, and my board shoots out and hits a guy on a bike path, and he slams so hard that everybody laughs so hard, and it's one of the best moments. And then the next segment between parts, I get the make, so I board slid, and then I got props from Muska that day. He said, "That was the sickest trick all day, homie." Like, and it was like, yeah. And then that was right before the talk about, oh, wait, I just found out you're over Consolidated. You got to go. So it's like that, right? But that's just how rad how life is, though. It's just like, hey, wow. Then I saw him at a trade show. And the first thing I got to say to him, because I was on New Deal at that time, I got to see him. He's buying a beer, and he's picking up his 2 beers. And I said to him, right when he turns around, I said, "Hey, I'm not on New Deal anymore, or I'm not on Consolidated anymore." And he gave me one of the beers. I was like, fire, yes, yes. Like, it was like the redeeming moment for like seeing Muska again. I was like, that's fire. He gave me the beer out of his hand. Like, that's a human being. That's a very human being. That's my brand logo. I've already branded Very Human as like my brand. Started a long time ago, but I branded it with the city and did all my stuff, but I'm republishing here. You know, nothing I give you was rubbish. This brand I came here to publish and tell you, Very Human is the clothing. It's kind of just going to be whatever it can be, but it's more like a very human skate is why we do it. You know, or there's no races beyond the human race, and it's like very human, but it's also like a super slogan as far as what it means. I mean, it's the good and the bad, but it's like when people do something very human, or you hear that word in a sentence, that's a very powerful thing they did, almost caring, or anyway. So it's just at the heart of my being, like the meaning of what very human is, or why you remembered me, right? That's very human, or what skateboarding is.
Yeah, dude, cosmic awareness.
Yeah, or people always say, "Why don't you wear pads?" It's like, I just love to leave the house. I mean, do you leave a house with a helmet on every day when you go? And therefore, it's very human to just go out the door on your skateboard without any pads. You know, that's the idea.
Yeah.
Also, you know,
it's kind of.
But I respect guys who ride and rip with pads. I respect that too, of course. I do.
I think that's why street skating is so much, more raw, is because people that skate vert or something, not to put anyone down or judge, but if you leave the house to go skate vert, you're grabbing your pads, your helmet, you have to go somewhere, like there's a destination to go. Yeah. Right? But if you go street skating and you just grab your board and go out the door and the world's your oyster, like that's pretty sick.
To say I grew up in the 80s, it was vert ramps, launch ramps, street, what the birth of what street was. But to ride, I made launch ramps since a kid with all these older kids that could use saws and stuff. And I couldn't use a saw for many years at first, but I wanted to make more and more launch ramps. But I had 3 ramps in my first house, and the first one was built like a 4-foot tall foot of vert. Like, I drew a picture to my uncle and said, "Hey, let's build a mini ramp." And I showed him like this, and I showed him a vert ramp picture by my drawing, and he took that radius idea and built me a 4-foot tall foot of vert. And my first ramp was like a shallow end with no curve in it. I mean, because the curve would help me that point. I learned later. But we tore down a fence and straightened every nail, which I love that lesson, that he took down the wood, and then we built that into the tranny of the ramp. Like, the way he built it was so just clutch. Like, he was like a teacher at the Fresno Sanger High School, and my friends knew him as Will, because he rode his motorcycle through the school, his little Vespa, through the hallways in the morning, and he was a badass, like, funny, weird guy. Okay. Anyway, so yeah.
How about this? Give me a good Rick and Buddy story, because you're on the cover in Northwest. We got to talk about that.
Trip. That was the best trip, and sooner or later I'll find my photos of that trip. But everyone we got to hang out, and you did touch on Pete the Ox, and I didn't get to get into that, but he basically that trip of the Northwest, we'll go into that after I talk about Pete the Ox showing me a pool line, actually, because this is a great story. Within the video part, one of my greatest pool transfers is a very good triple bubble, amoeba body pool, and there was a love seat, and I had this line that I only learned because Pete the Ox showed how to do the line, and it was like the most wild, just climb the corner like an airliner trying to gain speed on this one wall that you wouldn't even realize. The great pool skaters will look at that tranny rides all the way out to here if you really look at it, and then do the big giant line bubble. And then, but Ox showed me this sick frontside carve into the deep end. Then you fly into the perfect round deep end and come up at the low seat you're trying to fly over. So learning the line from him, and I had so much respect for the Bay Area pool skaters. I mean, Tony Farmer crew and Pete the Ox, Royce Nelson. Then it was like Lester Hasai and Matt Neely. I think it's Neely with a K or an N. I keep mixed up.
Yep, Matt Neely, rest in peace.
Yeah, and like
and then
Ruben, actually, that was one of the first
Curtis.
Because it was Alan giving me Ruben's contact, and then Ruben hooked me up, and we met, and Ruben was ill, and so it was a tough time to meet Ruben when he's like, walking skeleton like all of us, basically. So what will you leave? Skeletal coral reef. I mean, besides what we're going to leave, what are you going to leave besides that after that, right? So anyways, meeting Ruben and then meeting his crew was Tony Farmer was like the first guy I put as a pinnacle friend. And like, then it was like all the, because Royce Nelson's power in a pool and then Pete the Ox, these are all like so on this outside spectrum of what's rad in skateboarding, like basically a Mark Red Scott style of like, they're just radder than human too. They're just, there's something beyond it, not just the skating, but even a next level. Anyway, but the way that Pete the Ox is so nice, and then he can rip like he's actually an ox.
It's insane.
But the way he was showing me that line, that I don't remember him doing the gap, but that's when in the New Deal video part, I did it when the whole New Deal team was in Fresno, and I busted out one of our first trips together because they were coming to pick me up and we skated my spots in that. Got in the New Deal, I frontside ollied, and it was magazine, and the best way is to have photo and video right at the same time and cover it, because that's the other thing, marketable, you covered it, or having vision, getting something good, getting something different. No one's done that. Finding ways to do that with your vision. Anyway, so like I still look at my skating that way. If like my legs can catch up, you know what I mean? But so anyway, that was pretty epic. What do you want to ask me anything?
Well, no, we were talking about Northwest and Rick and Buddy. Is that cover Port Orford?
Yeah, so the connection to all those guys had to be the groundwork to getting to hang out with those guys on this trip, because Farmer was there and Peter Hewitt was there, and
sick.
We were in between skate parks, and I asked Peter, like, do you know how far the next park we're going to? I might have been driving, maybe, or something. No, I wasn't driving, but I still asked, and it was like, it's like 3 nautical miles. The best nautical miles. I was like, oh yeah, water. Aquatic intellect, like that. Anyway, but it was sick. Funny. He's always funny. But yeah, so there's
Pete's
a whole crew.
That
Port Orford was the second cradle I skated, because that was not the first ever cradle. That was the second cradle I skated. That was the second cradle, because the first cradle was in Brixleg, Austria. I know because I talked to Sage when they built it, and he was out there building it. Of course, the company's Dreamland, the best, the number one best skate build company. And
Peastone used to always remind me of that.
I think Grindland and Dreamland the same, honestly. I'd say those are the two best of the best. Like,
absolutely.
If you're just the fundamental of skateboarding itself first, they're the best. Those two. And then aesthetic look, I would say there's an aesthetic look that's happening amazing always California skate parks, because that guy works really hard to, as a non-skateboarder, see something beautiful, make something different. But I like the pattern collection, the collective. So there's something about that, but it doesn't fundamentally do every type of skateboarding in that type of street league park, but it's still epic. So I say look, aesthetic, and then I like the ecosystems one, what he's trying to achieve as far as he's coming from a different beauty aspect. So that would be the fundamental was just beauty and rad. Because like I want to do my own way, so I can try to add all those fundamentals into how I do a skateboard. Because I want it to look beautiful with matching patterns, but also skate like it was a Dreamland, but also skate like it was a street league at some parts too. Because that's what for me, I have total fundamentals when I design a skate park. It's like you have to do it for the little kid, also the great pro that's going to do the big gap, or something where they can go to when they get great. Even the kid's going to go great. Kid's going to go to that whole thing with the right skate park, and that's why they're great as far as the best. And they design position style. But
you don't want to conquer the new skate park. If you conquer it in the first week, it's like you're done.
Yeah. So that trip was going up to the Northwest, which is always special, just going to the Northwest and the parks they have up there. And but it was all those guys, and there was I feel like there's more guys I didn't remember, but it was Rick and Buddy, of course. And I had already skated bricks like Austria, being in Europe. Like one of the last tours I did to Europe, I kind of ended up there as the last fun location when I had some time at the end, and ended up in Bricks Leg and Dan Jehovah, everybody, all kinds of people would go there. Dave Duncan was there and we hung out, and just like, riding that cradle was a perfect send into it there, the actual thing. And then I think Port Orford did a good job of how it was sent into it. And then I'll just say that I helped design Madera Skate Park, which is near us. And the only problem is the send into it wasn't perfect. It takes a real challenge to go down that snake run, even for me. And I think that you need to have overspeed to do cradles. So I would hope we'd redo some part of that snake run to fix it so it actually is not as unsafe, I would say, to go up into a cradle with Mach speed, because you'd rather have Mach speed in a cradle because it's only centrifugal force. It's the same as if you're going a bowl sideways, and then you just turn it up like this. And as all these people who do loops know, you just get into the right speed to chuck through it, and it's the same as when you lock your legs in a sideways carve. Same locking of legs, same thing up here, but it's the pyramid of balance. It's all the thought fundamentals that make it like in the speed with the speed going fast enough. So like, why would you go too slow? That's why I don't like there. But
no, then you're fucked. Have you seen the one in Polson, Montana that's like a helmet?
I've seen different ones that look like that, but yeah, the trip was, I don't know. I'll look into it after. My brain's like a computer still loading. I'll like look into that one and know what you mean more, because I don't know about that. But I've seen the one in Havasu like that. So I think of the one in like Havasu when you say that, because I've seen the one they did look at.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But there's a whole rad thing there, actually. I liked when I think it was Grindlight did the one that's like almost like a ribbon, so you have to get up into the ribbon. And I love, like I said, hidden pathways. So when they did just a ribbon, that's the kind of stuff I liked. It was somewhere in Texas, but I helped build Pflugerville Park, and we got to live in Round Rock and then travel into Austin for a good time. And it was one of the sickest times, because Austin was such a sick town back then.
Yeah, I love Austin.
And it still is, I'm sure. But meeting Texas crew and working with Texas crew when I went on the X Games builds, and those dudes were sick. It was like the homies that I kept rolling up with everywhere. And but yeah, it was cool to work under Joe Ciaglia, because I actually was like, saw Joe Ciaglia on a Rob Dyrdek show, and I basically said to my family, I was like, see that guy, I'm going to work for him. And I did end up working indirectly, because I worked through the CA Rampworks, and then but Joe was the overall boss. And like I said, I respected the way he thinks, that he's not just he's not a skateboarder, but the way he thinks about trying to better it, or what his own game of trying to understand skateboarding and better. And then the aesthetic look is what I appreciate, and what they achieve is great. And to work in that company for a little while, just to do X Games 6 months. I lived down there in Carlsbad, and I got to design the 2013 X Games, and then got to be a ramp carny, basically, which wasn't as rad, but the way that I would say my only constructive critique about it would be that the only way that I feel like it failed was if they would have not made me the peon that had to like wipe the ledge for Paul Rodriguez and not watch Pedro Barros skate the course we just designed. Because if you really want me to be full circle, you should have realized the pro skater should be watching the skating and improving on the design for next one. And so I've seen them send the designs like with a lack of creativity. That would be my opinion about what happened after. But that's because I have a way more creative mind. I went through two whole builds with them, and I liked them. And the only problem with my critique was that they should have. But what I liked was when Joe C was like, "Hey, I don't know if this design right here is going to work." He's like, "How about you show me if it's going to work?" And I got to like take my tool bags off and then just go for it. And I did the line and did it. It was basically the two 30-degree pyramid ollies when you have the, I'm talking not pyramid, but a transition ramp, 30-degree angle hip, then another 30-degree angle. You see it in a lot of their designs. They've reused it. But the thing is, it does work to line up, go Ollie here, and then go Ollie the next 30, and then come back and hit the rails. Well, I did that like first try, and so it's cool, like being able to not just be the guy building, but being a skateboarder, a pro skateboarder that was, frankly, falling off the shelf a little bit. But to do the whole line, and then he's like, "Holy crap!" And I did it sick, because 50-50 is just one of my. It's in a bag trick, but Thrasher called me the. What is it called? Rail jockey. I love small jokes about myself, by the way. It's funny, like, of my... Was
that in the T. Eddie Awards or what?
It was in one of those little comment sections, but I just love stuff. I save things like if I'm in a mag, but just them saying that was enough to save the mag too. I don't remember if I was in it twice, but that was sick to me. The rail jockey is like, I am pretty short. And yeah, I keep doing the 50-50 or whatever, but the lock-in's fun. And I really want to do some switch 50-50s. Like, frankly, the rail that the guy just blunt slid in Bakersfield, like I've been eyeing that one for a while to try and switch that long one, but like that's an ultimate claimer, of course. But like that's just how I'm thinking. Like I want to get up on that rail, and I can totally grind down at 50 switch. I mean, because that's grass on one side, and then it's still the same stairs as the last, where there's less risk with that kind of rail. It's just it's just vision and angle and thinking, and I know I can 50-50 just fine backwards or forwards. I figured out. So anyway, just about matter.
What do you think about like the new kids that are skating rails and like to the level they've gotten? Like,
I am so like. You kind of go into
have you seen this
world.
guy Kevin Bockel and Gravette?
I would say the ones, of course, Gravette. He's a bro too because he came through the house. But I would say when I think of rail skaters, I definitely would say Jamie Foy as far as like my favorite all-around style of technical. I love when he nollie backs when he needed to switch crooks down the ledge, like frontside switch. But then the way he does front crooks is, he does a lot of stuff steezy. And then I especially love that the first time I ever saw him was like on America's Home and Funny Videos. And this kid tries to ollie this gap-to-gap ramp, one of those terrible front yard ramps that we've all experienced and hurt ourselves on. And he did the most gnarly, like guillotined himself on the second ramp, man. I was like, it was horrible.
That was Jamie Foy?
That was Jamie Foy. And I like watched it on the natural because I was like a TV buff or a movie buff, but that was actually Jamie Foy. When I saw it later, I was like, I remember that. It was like something you'd see on the ridiculousness, like of how bad a slam or something so funny. And like, I mean, even your slams are great. Like Jason Jesse said, like they're even great too, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And even if I didn't perfectly make it, it's still great 2 tries, you know? And that's kind of what Jason Jesse, we also make the great greater when you make. So, I mean, I'm still trying to have vision, trying to get a job at. Be a red skeleton.
Okay. I love that you're paying attention still, man. That's great.
Yeah.
Jamie Foy is Skater of the Year, and he's going for it again this year.
Yeah, the list goes on. You can watch everybody and everybody great. I mean, now just amazing. I could eat it up like cereal, you know what I mean? It's like people like that watching what they're doing latest, or, you know, we all go through our injuries and like have to find our jump the way. So this is the way, you know. But yeah, I thought I could share other ideas like art or something with you, or maybe if you have more angles yourself, or I could talk about
one last thing, because I talked to Farmer this morning and he wanted you to talk about winning the Slamma for Rube.
Tell me, say that again.
He said winning the Slamma for Rube.
What's a Faroob?
For Ruben.
Winning Savannah Slam? Wait, what do you mean? Everything, I mean, leaving the cube for Rube and all of our, like my never forget list on my robot has a growing list that, because like our list keeps growing for one, but I've been thinking like every wall is a never forget wall. But like when you talk about like somebody like Rube, I gotta start showing where like there's a tons of meaning in the art, but the idea here is that like my never forget list is like basically not only trying to draw your list here and that's not enough room. Oh wait, let me just grow a little list that I can always change and grow. But the idea is like you're almost getting out these names of our friends and like Phil Shaw or whatever. I'll tell you the list right now though. Never forget Phil Shaw, David Vera, local homie, P Stone Jake. He gave me 2 names. Jake Phelps did, RJ Real Juice, and Rick and Johnson. So you got Matt Neely, you got Tim Broch, you got Jaya Bondarov, Curtis Asai, Ruben Orkin, Greg Love, one of our locals. And yeah, the list grows after I even did this one. It's like, I already got names to it, you know? It's like,
yeah.
But this one's funny because like I blast, but I have no blaster, but I'm a ghetto blaster. My DNA is a mix of people, so I'm a mixtape. And I can't rewind. We always wish we could skate like we do when we were young, but I can't rewind. But I can fast forward if you notice me talking. And then, yeah, it's like I'm still trying to be a rad skeleton, so he's in the freaking skeletons. And I like DC because both Danny and Colin gave me big time props when I met them. And I got a signed poster from Danny, and Colin was so kind, like saying, we're homies. And I was like, I forgot, but yeah, like one time we hung out. So like, and then every dad knows there's always a Lego in the wrong place. So I got some stupid Legos. And then I was supposed to say Nerf right here, but I kind of wanted to say nerd because I think of it as the acronym neurologically excellent rad dude. Anyway, but like it comes from my Scarecrow graphic here, and that's the Scarecrow board that Jim Gray made, where there was a robot holding the glass jar, and it was a whole idea that like when we get too old, we got to do something else, like have a robot. And of course, I have a flux capacitor because my connection to skateboarding. I mean, to Back to the Future. But anyway, that's
absolutely. Well, that's cool. That's a little segue to the art with Ruben as the kind of like bridge.
This was a great story about an octopus who escaped a laboratory, and it was from a photo where, if you've ever seen the video of the octopus walking down the street by a brick wall, well, I heard that was a story where one actually really did escape a lab and made its way to the ocean. And what I thought was amazing is that this little guy had to do this caper in a matter of 25 minutes because they have to hold their breath when they're out of water. So you have to realize if he got out of the lab and got to the ocean, he had to do that in about 25 minutes, which I love the best part. I also posed the question, what if you found a skateboard? And then when I drew this one, it was for a homie, Oscar Goldman, the musician, but Josh Regalado, the skateboarder ripper. And he's a homie, and I did this first one as a gift, and it's acrylic. I don't always paint with acrylic because it takes so much time to like really do, but I like acrylic when I can, so and I start with like pencil or start with my idea. Anyway, but it's just fun. I have different philosophies about it, but I just wanted to mention that the first one was for a friend, but I basically have been like busting them out stencil style because they're way easier. But like, here's one I was just starting these guys, the octopus again, for this event. I'm going to have an event I'm going to be at. If anyone wants to go to Corcoran, California, in about 2 weeks from now, Corcoran, California, we're having like a...
What's the date?
It's October 5th, Saturday, and I'll be showing my art there. You know, I'll have free posters to sign at the Northwest cover, and it's called it's part of the Cotton Festival for the town of Corcoran, but it's called the Cotton Jam. And my homie who skates is a neuropathologist at UCLA, and his foundation is about skateboarders and advanced brain research. I forget the whole acronym, but he's going to be hosting it. Red Bull did some kickdowns for it. They're not officially sponsoring it technically by the law thing, but they are sponsoring stuff. So Red Bull is also sponsoring stuff, you know. And so, but we're going to have like my art out and some free giveaways of the like. I'm a Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. I actually did some bags. They're like little tobacco pouches, and just some of the other art that I make. But basically, I'll also be giving the speech, which is kind of skate philosophy. And I'll try to tie together some fun thoughts and hopefully give some dad jokes that aren't cringy. And then I'll get to do like a performance piece as architect, as the character I created through like my art, kind of thinking through introspection, but then like kind of releasing anger that you want to let go of. And I did it first with my dragon. And the thing about the dragon, I was drawing it at the end of 2023 in December. Started drawing it, but I was cutting it over as the ball dropped, cutting the stencil. And so like you just see, I was in the outline so I can land the right colors in the right places. Because in the end, I go connecting lines, black marker. I just use a Sharpie because black is just black. Anyway, but releasing the anger into the dragon was kind of how it started. And halfway through the year, I finished the bottom half of the dragon, but it was so significant. I didn't realize that 2024 is a year of the dragon. I found like 4 days after the turn of the ball of the year. So I was drawing halfway between December and 15 days before the beginning of the year when I started.
Damn.
Finished half in the beginning, then finished the bottom half when I realized it's the year of the dragon. I need to finish the second half of the dragon. And listening to little Alfonso Rawls on my shoulder, like Conscience, and going, everybody skates. I was like, thanks, pal. Like, and then it didn't really happen, but it's like it was fun to think of it that way because it literally was in my head going, everybody skates, and I love the right kind of branding and the names and stuff. I love the right kind of thinking with the skateboard company. That's the formula. It is. And, so I liked everybody skates and him saying, and I'm like, oh, so all my animals should skate, because for me it's kind of like a connection with like how you have to have a spirit animal sometimes to get through harder things in life, and like I've always liked the wolf, and but there's many others. Like New Deal compared me to a hedgehog, both my hair, my speed, my active brain. You know, I was just the hair was like the best, and it's kind of a joke. Like you look like a hedgehog too, and you go fast. And so it's perfect. I was like Sonic the Hedgehog, and then so that's why the hedgehog was so funny. By the way, if you see, so it's a joke about like
Sonic the Hedgehog,
DNA lab in the end. But everybody's skating, and one time
what about legendary Smurf Kid?
Yeah, that's fun. It's like me making fun of myself because I'm proud to be legendary at my 20-year tricks or whatever, you know, but joke at myself at the same time because I'm just fun. I'm just being fun, and I'm just like, I've thought these things through where my either philosophy or dad joke is a part of these haikus that become the music. So it's becoming music is what the performance piece really ultimately is. And there's a whole character creation with architect. So architect is me. I'm conscious of it. But this part forward at the act is that I don't know I'm architect, but I really do. I created the character. But that's why it's a performance piece. And then it's my words that I've worked on for 20 years and what I've done lately with my art. So it's like a pretty bad escapism, like 9 months of like getting way too deep into it and then starting lately. But frankly, like, escapism, the Great Escape wasn't great. And if they didn't need an escape, right? I mean, so escapism has to do with there's something needed but anyways, it's not even a bad tool when you're sharpening. You think it's a bad tool you're sharpening. Actually, there's ways that things are good tools too,
Yeah.
i.e. you needed to escape from something to get your head out of more trauma. Let's say trauma is something you want to escape. Trauma in life, right? Because it shapes us just as much as our good experiences. So anyway,
well, you keep talking about dad jokes, right? So tell me about being a dad and being married. Like, you got a little family. Oh, it's super awesome. Yeah. I would say that my first being a dad is like, it gives you the greatest strengths, but also your greatest weakness, because if they're ill or something bad, you want them to be okay, right? So it's like, and you have to love yourself to love your kids. Like, there's so much philosophy in it, but it also makes you a better human being because you try harder. You would do things you wouldn't do because it's a little person or whatever. And they're you. And like, I'm saying there's so many levels to it. And I don't force my kids on skateboarding, or I didn't before. And I feel like that was a mistake. Like, my youngest, he's 7 and I'm going to get him to skate more, but he already has. And I'm not worried about it but the best things are not forced, and like that's. Oh, you have 2 kids? I have 5 and 3 biological. Oh, really? Yeah, so bonus family, and basically, but other than being proud of my family or whatever, personal life should remain personal, and more or less, I keep the talk about skateboarding just because it's what the audience would love to hear. No, for sure. I'm just kind of catching up with you on a friend level. I love talking about it, though, because I learned so much from my wife, and I learned so much from just being a dad, but it's like you're almost a self-entertainer in the end. Why dads make dad jokes, because like they're just trying to be funny themselves, Like, when I say trying to get my jump back, or I'm still trying to be a rad skeleton, it's like I skated so hard my skeleton is having a hard time, and it's like just the dad joke is like still just walking skeleton. But then I also have a super connection because my grandfather was in the war and he was skinny and his name was Bones, so like he was and then lately I've joked with like I can't wear shame, I have too many names, like RJ, Real Juice, Ripping Johnson, Rasta Felper Jr. came up with that name. I didn't know that. Felper came up with, it was 2 of them. He said, Real Juice. He said, Ripping Johnson. And then that was just stuck. But my other homie, Matt, called me Rasta Jr. because he was Rasta and I listened to reggae. And okay. My DNA, actually. We united my indigenous Puerto Rican ancestry, the indigenous tribe, the Taino, call themselves Lacono, and they're a subgroup of the Arawakan. Only pushed the sea. They weren't from the sea. They were the Americans, the original. Hey, good question. Why don't they call us first settlers? First agriculturalists. Probably the genesis effect to the Amazon, that is the terra preta black soil. But they made pottery, so the evidence is there that leads to the answer. But they were the first agriculturists of the Americas, and they traded in North America. Anyway, I guess my point was that that they reunited the Africans and against the Europeans, the indigenous with the Africans against the Europeans, and a statue of one of these people, Hatui, lives in Cuba. And it's like, no wonder we can't go to Cuba, right? But but yeah, I know there's other reasons. There's some pyramids. The band give me a good pyramids. What? Give me a good Felper story. Okay, so getting to skate with them or whatever, or seeing him in Europe and he had a knee injury and just being like, telling him, I hope your knee's all right or whatever. He's like, whatever. He's like, life's a bitch and then you die, or just the funny, or being like super like edgy, but then also super nice to go skate with me. And like we just did it one day where we just farted around the skate park and we didn't skate that hard. And I don't know, some days I just wasn't trying to skate that hard because I didn't want to get hurt, but I just love skateboarding to just do it. And just like, you're not trying to impress him, but he was cool enough that we just ripped one of these parks that was pretty good. It was kind of like a giant square in San Francisco, close enough to him. But all of them were great as far as Tommy Guerrero or just going and seeing Jim Botboy or Jim Thiebaud and guys like that. Or meeting Jeff going
Clint.
to Deluxe.
Jeff Clint's from the Central Valley too, so it's
that's right.
they knew Jeff Clint, and one was related to him somehow or something. But Jeff Clint made the Spitfire, and I like that what's that beat down bear, because it's a logo that got me want to draw it, you know, and it's like, it's your branding, but that's good branding, right, to get me to want to draw it, right? So I drew it like I wanted to kind of pick up the ice cream and go skate though, like, because it's kind of rad. And then I made it say Spitfire, just like to kind of give back to them as like my own artistry as an older skater, and just push their art a little further, because theirs is already out there. The bear is rad. I didn't know who drew it. I tried to give credit to whoever drew it first, because I was like just doing a fun copy of it. And it's like my friend Oscar Goldman said to me, he's like, you can mimic my art and it's okay, because like if I went to try to draw over a Picasso, it still wouldn't be a Picasso. Like it would be my art over a Picasso. And like it was a beautiful way to say it, like, because I wasn't stealing anything particular. It was more formula or like something I liked about his art. So, but I say to myself, like, it's from a movie, but he goes, I'm a work in progress. And I like to say, like a Picasso. Like my own version of a copy, I guess, is the way I think about it. Yeah, jokes. But I have to say, I hate fake audience laughs, but hey, it's a good one. It was a good one, though. It was a good dad joke. Are you dad?
Yes.
Whoever it was, it's good.
That was McKay. Hey, let's do a this or that. I got this little this or that segment for you. If you watch the show, you know I always start pie or ice cream.
I think ice cream's always easier. It's hot out here.
Big Brother or Trans World?
God, that's a hard. I would have to probably say Trans World, because they did me love, and then Big Brother did me dirty and tricked me one phone call.
Grind or slide?
Grind. I have way more control, you know.
Front side or back side?
Backsides are always sicker, and I don't know how you would say front. I guess the backside lip slide's better, but I guess the one where you're sliding the hard way front side, they call it maybe board slide. I'd say depending on which one, I like them both, but I think it's harder to get your back trucks over. It's got to be backside, and backside always.
Surfing or snowboarding?
Snowboarding, because I'm able to do it better.
Tony Hawk or Danny Way?
That's such a hard. You can't do that to me. Those two legends, put them together. Tony has interviewed me and put me in his video game with a slam segment. Ooh. So I love him too, and I love him. I would say him first, just Bond. He came first, and he's just first. But Danny Way gave me the best love on a poster, saying that he saw me change the game, brother. Thanks for the inspiration. So like, I want to step above being interviewed or being in Tony's video game, even though the game was great. I didn't get paid. So also probably why I would pick Danny. No, but just to get love from our idols, any of them. So it's so hard to take them apart. I'd have to say I love them both, but Danny Way.
What's a better city, Visalia or Bakersfield?
Well, I would say Visalia, just because I have more time there. Because that's a hard one to diss someone's town to say. So I wouldn't really ever say they're, because I know Ben Smith from there, and there's epic stuff that's gone down, like the side, whatever the side they had there. They had a sick one of the sides was there anyway, Baker's side.
Okay.
I don't know. But
what about
but I would say Visalia has inspired me from the guys who came out of there in such a big way that it would just be Visalia, not only because they're close, but they had legends out of there that are still legends.
Metal coping or pool coping?
Well, of course I'd have to say pool coping, just because it's better. It's just a more challenging, but once you get it to slide, it's the better feel, because then you can never go back to a rail and feel the skate army. I'm telling you, like, in the reality of it, you have to learn, even build yourself a small quarter pipe with some rad slidey pool cope, and get it for yourself to know why the difference. You know, it's always an easy answer, because that's why people cut the little shreds on the metal. If you've seen the ever X pattern on metal, it's so much fun on a ramp. It's like a next level of just doing a ramp with coping, is to have the shred grinded and made all nice, so it's like a little diamond pattern. It makes it so much more fun than just grinding metal. But handrails are just handrails to me. I still wake up in a cold sweat with handrails in my mind, you know.
How about Chinese food or sushi?
I think sushi's a whole other up level. I like both, but I think that you're left hungry with Chinese food, whereas sushi's just like a delicacy every time you have it, you know? And I love Japan on a whole another level.
And then my dog's yelling, so the last one is dog or cat?
Dogs, always, because they you don't have to work as hard for their affection. And when you get it, it's great with the cat too. But then they leave more hair. But dogs are just a different kind of loyalty that is just that's so appreciated with dogs. You know, I don't know. They give you back more appreciation when you reciprocate. Yeah,
I'm a dog, 100% dogs.
Yeah.
Let's end with what comes to mind when you think of one of the best things you saw in skateboarding that you were there for.
Oh my God, probably I said the John Cardiel thing was of course an easy answer.
Wait, what was that?
It was in Marseille when he had the broken.
Oh, the 360.
He did this 360 from full transfer, and when he broke the board, and he rode it out on the gnarliest ride out of the board doing this. So that was one of them. I got two other ones that are great, but seeing a Bastian Salabonzi 2 years in a row, and how he would skate, and how it just kickflip, as many flip tricks as he did in his run.
Caballerial kickflip, everything.
He did a huge kickflip back 180 for his last trick after a ton of hard tricks. But just seeing the energy of him doing the World Championships 2 years in a row and bust both of them. But then, like, his skating spoke for itself, you know, as far as when he did the second one. And then the other thing I would say, Augie de Souza, who had legs that he was given, not the full legs that most of us have, skating with his arms. That was when I got second place World Championship. And what I did, sorry to slide this in there, but I grinded up the freaking rail and back in my run when I got second place.
Damn.
Yeah, but like Augie went from the vert ramp deck onto that rail and grinded down, person with no legs, excuse me.
Wow.
But the way the crowd cheered for that was just a powerful moment that just moved you, man. The way he skated that. And I'm sure there's many other moments that I'd missed in life, but other people have seen something similar, you know. But to me, the Cardiel was the best broken board one, and then But also I met Rick and Buddy, or I think I met Rick first on top of that ramp. It was probably the first one of them that I met. So I actually saw Fruit of the Vine copy, and I said, that is a great video, because I was just an advocate of pool skating and like an ambassador of skating itself, the way I try to speak diplomatically for my sport to be received. So it was epic to meet Rick and didn't know it was his video, and telling him it's a good movie. And then he's like, well, I made it, you know. And I was like, oh, you're the guy who made it? Because I like so appreciate that you made it, you know. Like, really, as a pool skater and someone's going, this, you take another look at it, like the new way it's coming out, not back then, but what people are doing now. It drove the unappreciated street skater, much like unappreciated vert skater. You get appreciated in the pool skating side, which is just like what vert skaters go through, frankly. So honor all of them, you know, anyone who tries hard. And the reason they're wearing pads is for a good reason, actually, when you see what they're doing, especially where they're taking it now. And
fuck yeah,
to everyone's name, you know, every level when you make it your own. So
are you able to give a Mount Rushmore of skateboarding, or is that too hard?
What do you mean Mount Rushmore skateboarding? Oh,
like the five greats.
Oh, for sure, I can add to my list. But I wanted to mention that there's there's a 6 skate shop. They did a DIY against the wall, and my friend came up with the name Jason Wong, and it was called Sifu. And what I like, that's a great name and a great idea. And you know, they
where's that?
Numbers get some traffic, and I thought they're so like the heart of skateboarding kind of lies at skate shops like this one, where people can skate the outdoor of the shop. A DIY that my homie Shane made, and I just think they're legendary name, legendary idea, and they're all
what city?
Core skateboarders in Fresno. Some of the most core skateboarders ride there, and I hang out with them, and like they always receive me well and treat me well, and that's family, you know. That's
skate shops forever, dude. You gotta support skate shops.
Exactly. That's just all our friendship over time, and as long as we have good dignity over time, you know what I mean. That's what's important. And so they've always been. They had the DIY called Busland, and that was sick. But just trying to drop and give respect to my friends and the people who first energized me to do this, and the other people doing rad stuff. But Fresno still has a great scene, I'd say, and just to clear that up. But anyway.
Okay.
Important to say that. There was some local stuff.
Yeah, so. Is there anybody you want to give shout outs or anything that you want to do before we end? I got to leave in like 10 minutes. But
I just want to say thanks to you for just thinking of me, because I was only fishing for the hearts and minds, dude. Like, really, we look at our legends, we look at the do something great, and then just stand with the giants and get to go at the contest. And whoever remembered my name or said my name to me, like Tony Alva did it, Eric Cosson, I geek out just when they say my name and say, I'm tripping out, you know who I am. Like, those moments were so big to me. Just that stuff, you know what I'm talking about? Like,
Absolutely.
Just to be remembered by you, or to be like, and yeah, I was doing my life, but I left the digital dystopia for a bit and like came back since 2019, I think it was, but more or less it's just to reconnect with the people that we love out there. It's like we don't have each other's numbers, and frankly, all my best friends are too far away. I wish I could pull them together, and that trip was like that. Port Orford was like all the sickest, and like Ruben wasn't there on that trip, but got to hang out with that crew before that. But just like the guys that came on that trip, and I have a great photos of it. One day I'll find them. But Rick and Buddy was there. We had the best freaking time staying at this cabin overlooking the ocean in the Northwest where we drove down. It was just the most beautiful morning, and we all got to
love it up there.
Hang out and have a crazy night together, silly night.
So sick, dude. Fuck yeah. It's good fucking seeing you and hearing you and catching up and whatnot. Please stay in touch for sure.
Yeah. I'd love to connect with you like off the wire and just keep in touch, and let's make like a trip happen where we camp or something, or do some skating, or just whenever we come up to, the universe only knows perfect timing, like how we finally got to do this, and pardon me about that. But, thanks for giving me a little soapbox.
One last thing I forgot. McKenney had this story, and I'm curious if you even remember it.
Okay.
He said there was a contest where you were ripping. I think it's in Europe somewhere, and he was like going crazy, like screaming and something. And it may or may not have fucked you up a little bit. And maybe you were bummed at the time, and he was apologizing. But I was like, I don't even know.
I do the same thing. It's only the people I hurt that I both think of the good times, but I also wish I would have never hurt anybody. And so he's just thinking too much because he never did. Otherwise, I would have remembered if it really was a thing. But more or less, if I acted a certain way that he might, I don't know, maybe I was younger in the way we are. Maybe it doesn't matter anymore because we're actually reshaped ourselves since then anyway. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it doesn't ever matter. I don't remember it, but I've never thought of him that way, and I've never been bummed on him that I can ever remember. So, like, I love but just smooth that out. It's cool, buddy. Like, I stick to you the same way. I had your board on the wall forever until I didn't have it anymore. But I did have his board for so many years on my wall. Like, the one of the girl tearing the guy's heart out.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, my friend's using again, man. Love is a hell of a drug. He's in love again.
Woo. Dude, for real. Well, I don't know if it's come through you, but I'm working on a documentary for Phil right now.
Oh.
So, yeah.
I would be so honored because to know I was a piece of his puzzle, that he was even thinking of me. But the way I think of his skating, I'm a transcendental thinker. Skateboarding transcends. The two people like Phil didn't smooth. I mean, yeah, I have so much more to say. I'd be a wealthy bit of knowledge to add my opinion.
For sure. I'm going to go down and interview Jesse for sure. So maybe when I do that, I can hit you up and...
I'm glad you're going to interview, because I was going to interview him first when I start doing because there's enough stories to go around. I hope you can understand. It's not stepping on your toes. You understand?
Oh, are you doing a podcast?
I was going to because of a dream I've always had. I've liked that, but I'm a scholar of skateboarding because I have too many stories, but I have too many friends just like this with their stories. And you just add that up and you just got too many stories to not be able to do it. I'm not doing it only because, but I was thought of it long before I knew you did it. So I'm an emerald tablet, green with envy, that you are doing something I've always wanted to do, even before I knew you do this. But I thought it's a great time that someone can do this too.
And it's a great way of reconnecting with people like we're doing right now.
It's just fun. And I have all these other projects I've not been able to sail, but like very human. And anyway, I've got other ideas that I really want to sail in my life. And so
rad,
I want to
dude.
be part of it to kind of gain clout from the actual beyond monetary value clout. But also the monetary clout is important in this life. And like you can, and I feel like after traveling the world, feeling like a genie getting stuck back in the bottle, going to work for someone else. It's like I've seen the world and I feel like a genie coming out the bottle. I'm going full throttle, and I just, please sir, don't put me back in the bottle. You know what I mean?
That's where a lot of us get fucked. And when we start hitting later in life, we're like, we had such an amazing life, and then you get to a point where that kind of fizzles, and you're like, I've already done way better than this.
I got to give one more props because the music side has sort of flourished, because once at the Vagabond, I gave this character, the Fast Sean, the rapper, gave him a skateboard when he was just a kid there. And then he became that Sean. He wrote about it in Thrasher magazine about me giving him the board. I didn't know that he transpired as a very famous rapper. My nephew told me at the time, dude, this rapper tells it about you giving him his board at Vagabond. And I knew who it was from the story, we've connected. He's called himself the Black Bart Simpson at one time, and I think that's perfect imagery, perfect like fun, like it's hilarious. So I helped shape him to be this Black Bart Simpson basically by giving him the board, right? And he shapes himself too. But anyway, so lately he's given me access to his studio with Ramsey's The Real Hip Hop and Violence in the Media is their brand. They put out 3 albums under Violence in the Media. And they're very intelligent. There's a very intelligent guy talking in there. And my words came before the music, and I'm blending to the style he's giving me. But I had my own like melodic beats I listened to when I did art. And just like ethereal, because I just eat it up like cereal, you know, and that's what I was trying to go for. And he did his good style. He gave me some smooth beats, so I got 2 down, and they're 2 songs, and I'm going to finish an album with him. But it's really like the words are more important to me than anything, and delivering the words. So it's secondly is that it comes through music, because music's just a delivery system, right?
Well, so send it my way. I want to check it.
So I'm going to keep working on it as I can, and now we've already got 2 songs. I'm going to bang them out at this event in Corcoran. And I'm going to try to get a third before the event at the Corcoran. But I'll have free posters of the Northwest poster. I have other photos of my magazine covers. And if anybody wants to come, I'll sign them for free. But I'm also going to have some of my art on sale if anybody's interested.
Get there, kids. What is it? October 5th.
It's October 5th. October 5th, Saturday. 2 weeks from this Saturday. Today, we're on the, what is the date? Anyway. 21st.
21st. Well, as my friend Tim Kerr from the skate rock band Big Boys once said,
nice. I am painting a toy soldier.
Yeah. Dude, fuck yeah. I'm so stoked that we connected and hit me up anytime. You know that.
Dude, I appreciate so much. Just seeing you again. I'm glad you're well. Scoop up life, Pelican. Glad you're well
too,
again.
bro. And just remember, I was looking at your Instagram, Arachnid, and I was like,
joke. Like, because I like.
No, dude, but I'm a Scorpio.
Oh, sick! So I'm hanging with a Scorpio on Arachnid. It's like words. I had to. I tie so much. My thoughts run on double meaning, and then the triple meaning comes later, and other people will find their own meaning. But it's like, especially if you got my meaning, that'd be the best because my lessons are in my haikus. So. Tying together and getting is the opportunity just to say artist, scholar, pro skater. Some things are a setup and some things are a punchline. So I try to get the punchline that is better last. And something like a volleyball setup, to say Arachnid was kind of more the setup to joke, or maybe it came after to slide the 2 together. The thoughts, I back engineer a great idea, onomatopoeia. I actually try it, and nothing's more powerful than a great idea, by the way. So if you back an engineer into the words, that's how my formula is to get my own great sayings. Anyway, it's way too much to download. I'm on my tablet. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Every good athlete, a great mindset. You know?
Movie buff. You've seen the movie D.B. Cooper?
Dude, did you say D.B. Cooper?
Yeah. Did he live or did he die? Did he live or die?
He freaking lived. He was CIA. He knew about the back stairs going down. He knew that he knew too many things, and he jumped in penny loafers. He did it with steez. He basically
best shit ever.
The only thing left was cigarettes. It was the only time they couldn't do DNA. They didn't save the cigarettes. Was that something that someone missed on purpose? But he knew how much money to ask for, and he knew how much money was in the insurance fund. He knew about the back stairs taking off when they're down. They only ever tested that in Vietnam.
They never found him.
Actual CIA plant that had 2, or somehow, excuse me, my words, 3-letter agency. Anyway,
no, they never found the guy. It was the best story ever.
Well, it is one of the greatest stories because that's the kind of high strangeness. That's the level of real high strangeness, and that's if it doesn't touch on reality, it's not cool to me. If it goes high strangeness from reality, like the stones around the world, the Enochian architecture, the Japanese samurai temple in Nagoya. I didn't realize until I watched it on a documentary, but that they always build the foundations on the old. Like you got these old gnarly stones that we don't know how to make them. That you talk about Cusco, and then Pumapunku. You know Lake Puma Rabbit? It's called Titicaca, but it means Lake Puma Rabbit because
Titicaca, dude. I love that shit.
And it looks like a puma chasing a rabbit. A puma is chasing a rabbit. I shit you not, Lake Titicaca. And who was flying in the sky to know that? You know what I'm talking about?
We got to do a whole other podcast on only this kind of stuff.
No, I swear, let's do it. I'll come in.
Dude, it would be amazing. Because I got to go to this appointment, but
I'm sorry.
No, not at all, dude. I just don't want, I don't want to go off on a tangent and have to cut you off.
Hey, better yet, let's do it in 3s because I'm an architect alchemy trinity. I do things in 3s right now. So if you'd like to do 3, let's go for 3, man. Let's do it freaking round 3 after. Let's keep going. All right.
Let's get Pancho involved, right?
Please, I'd be honored, dude. He's the homie.
Me, you, and Panch.
That'd be so fun. And I'm funny, too. He's funny now.
Have you seen him do stand-up?
I did, and I genuinely cracked up at him every time.
Oh, my God. I love it.
It's good, smart thinking, and it's funny punchlines, and that's what I love, being like an older... Anyway.
Well, we did it. We did it.
We finally did it, yeah.
We fucking did it. We nailed it. And I think, as you would say, the kids are going to eat it up like cereal.
Yeah, ethereal. Eat it up like cereal. That's right.
Take care of yourself, buddy.
Strategy. Okay, thank you so much, dude. You're too kind for having me, buddy. Take care, brother.
And now, a word from our sponsor, Oro Coffee. That's some damn good coffee. Order 1 or 6 bags at orocoffeeroasters.com.
Y'all like music? Because you're listening to SMFM.
Good people. Hello again. What a week it's been here at SMFM. I could tell you all about it, but instead, I'm just going to play you this new video from the band Gunboat. It's for a song called Psychic Vamp, and it's on their brand new album entitled But the Machine Demands Blood. Let's hear it for Gunboat. Give it up for Gunboat. The song was Psychic Vamp, and that video was directed by Arjan Miranda. These folks are all residing in New York City. You might find yourself in the New York City area, the Brooklyn area. You might find yourself wandering into Little Frankie's in the Lower East Side. You might find yourself getting a tattoo at Allied Tattoo in Brooklyn. A word of advice, don't get any spaghetti on your new tattoo. All right? Another word of advice, follow Gunboat on Instagram at gun_boat. Okay? And you know where you're getting the best underground music. Only here on SMFM. Peace.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Talkin Schmit. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. When you subscribe, you'll get notifications every Tuesday of new episodes the minute they become available. Also, please leave reviews and a 5-star rating. It's the best way to help the show grow. All of the episodes will always remain free, but if you would like to help support the show, you can do so at TalkinSchmit.com, where you can pick up some merchandise like t-shirts, beanies, hats, and stickers. The website has an entire archive of all of the episodes, with extra photos and videos. Email us with any suggestions, comments, or ways that the show may have improved your life at talkinschmit@gmail.com. All interviews are conducted, edited, and produced by Schmitty. The intro music is Mary's Cross by the band Nature. A very special shout out goes to the executive director, Sharal Camisa.
Shout out.
Love it! This is Talking Schmit, where the Rolodex is deep, but the conversation is deeper.
Keep the wheels greased.